CD7. August opens the old Kelvinator fridge in the kitchen. It's covered in so much rust that it leaves bronze dust on my hands when I touch it. "Sorry, not much to eat," August says. There's a bottle of water in the fridge and a tub of Meadowlee margarine and a jar of pickled onions, as well as something mouldy and black growing in the bottom crisper, an old piece of steak maybe, or a small human. "What have you been having for dinner?" I ask. August opens the pantry door, points to 6 home-brand packets of chicken noodles. "Bought these a few days ago," he says. "I bought a bag of frozen vegetables to mix in with them. You want me to do you up some?" "Nah, thanks. I just need sleep." I follow August back past my father, splayed out, unconscious, in the living room, and down a hallway to the first bedroom on the left. "This is where I sleep," he says. The room has deep blue carpet and a single bed against the left wall, and an old wardrobe with peeling cream-coloured paint opposite the bed. "I guess you could crash on the carpet beside me," August says. August points down the hallway to the bedroom at the end of it. "Dad's room," he says. I point to the bedroom next to August's. Its door is closed. "What about this one?" "That's the library," he says. "The library?" August opens the door of the bedroom and flicks on the light switch. There are no beds in this room, or wardrobes, or paintings on the wall. There are only books. But the books aren't stacked neatly on shelves, for there are no shelves to speak of. There is only a mountain of books, paperbacks mostly, building from all 4 corners of the room to form a peak in the bedroom's centre that reaches the height of my eyeline. Nothing in the room but a volcano-shaped pile of books in the thousands. Thrillers and westerns and romance novels and classics and action-adventure novels and thick textbooks about mathematics and biology and human movement studies, and books of poetry and Australian history and war and sport and books on religion. "Are these all his?" I ask. August nods. "Where does he get them all from?" I ask. "He gets them from the op shops," August says. "I think he's read them all." "That's impossible," I say. "I don't know," August says. "All he does is read. And drink." He nods to the bedroom at the end of the hallway. He wakes up early in the morning, around 5 a.m, and he rolls all the smokes he's going to smoke any given day, and that might be 30 or 40 smokes. Then he just reads books and smokes the smokes he's rolled. "Does he ever come out?" "Yeah, he comes out when he's having a drink," August says, "and when he wants to watch Sale of the Century on the telly." "That's fucked up," I say. August nods. "Yeah, but he blitzes Sale of the Century." "I gotta piss," I say. August nods, moves to the toilet and bathroom next to my father's bedroom. He opens the toilet door, and we both recoil at the smell of old urine and beer. Above the plastic toilet top rests several torn and rough-shaped squares from the Courier Mail newspaper, which August uses to wipe his ass. The toilet's floor space is just long enough and wide enough to accommodate a porcelain toilet and an opening door, and the floor is currently holding an inch-deep pool of my father's piss. A yellow fluffy toilet mat, the colour of a baby chick, is soaked in piss in the corner beside a toilet brush leaning against the wall. His aim turns to shit after the 5th cup, August says, standing at the edge of my father's urine pool. "You can piss from outside if you want. If you have a full tank, you'll probably make it from here." I line up at the edge of the piss pool and unzip my fly. August takes a sheet and towel from the hallway cupboard. In his bedroom, he rolls the towel up into a pillow for my head. I lie back on his deep blue carpet and pull the sheet over me. August stands by the bedroom door. He raises his right hand to the light switch. "You good?" he asks. "Yeah, I'm good," I say, spreading my legs out for a better sleeping position. "It's good to see you, Gus," I say. "It's good to see you, Eli," he says. "It's good to talk to you," I say. He smiles. "It's good to talk to you," he says. "Get some sleep. Everything's going to be all right." "You really think so?" I ask. He nods. "Don't worry, Eli," he says. "It gets good." "What gets good?" "This life of ours," he says. "How do you know it gets good?" "The man on the phone told me." I nod. "Nah, we're not crazy. We're just tired. We just need some sleep." "Night, Gus," I say. "Night, Eli." The light goes off and darkness fills the room. August steps over me to get to his bed. I hear the springs in his bed sink down as he lies back. Silence. Eli and August Bell, together again in another black bedroom. Slim says he would sometimes open his eyes in darkness like this, the darkness upon darkness underground in Black Peter, and he'd pretend the darkness wasn't darkness at all. It was just space, he says. Deep space. Deep universe. "Gus?" "Yes?" "Do you think Lyle is still alive?" Silence. Long silence. "Gus?" "Yes?" "Oh," I say. "I was just checking you hadn't stopped talking again." Silence. "Please don't stop talking to me, Gus. I like talking to you." "I won't stop talking to you, Eli." Silence. Deep universe silence. "Do you think Lyle is still alive?" I ask. "What do you think, Eli?" I think about this. I think about this often. You remember what Lyle used to say about the Parramatta Eels when he really knew the team was going to get beat, but he didn't want to admit it? "Yeah," August says. Silence. "Do you remember what he said?" "Yeah, sorry," August says. "I just wrote it in the air." "Good," I say. "I don't want to say it." "Just keep it in the air. That's where Lyle Orlick can stay, maybe. In the air. In my head. In my heart. In my rage. In my vengeance. In my hatred. In my time that will come. In my universe." You remember that day we all ate mulberries? August asks. I remember. The mulberry tree that hung over the back fence of the Darra house flopped over the fence lazily from Dot Watson's house behind us. Slim was looking after us that day, but he didn't know we had eaten so many fat burgundy mulberries that day until I vomited a purple river after lunch. I ran out the back door off the laundry, but I didn't make it to the grass. I chucked up the purple river all over the path that led to the clothesline. A purple stain splashed across the concrete, like someone had dropped a bottle of fine red wine on it. Slim had no sympathy for my aching belly, just made me wash it up with Pino-Clean and hot water. Once I'd cleaned it all up, Slim said he wanted to make a mulberry pie, like the ones he had eaten in a boys' home down south. Remember the story he told us about the boy who had the universe in his mouth? August asks. We were pulling mulberries off the tree when Slim started telling us about some story he'd read in Boggo Road once. A story about some god or some special guy from a religion different from the wooden cross one we knew. Not one where Jesus was the hero, but one that was spoken of in the kinds of places Slim said Indiana Jones liked to visit. He said there was this special boy who was actually a special man, and this special boy was running around with a bunch of other kids, older kids, playing near a sprawling fruit tree. And the older kids didn't let this special boy climb the fruit tree with them because he was too small, but they let him pick up the fruits that fell from the tree as they climbed. The older kids warned the boy not to eat the fruits because they weren't clean. "Just collect them," said an older boy. But the boy began stuffing his mouth with the fat and juicy purple fruits that lay on the ground. He ate these fruits like he was possessed, so ravenous for them that he started picking them up with clumps of earth and shoving them in his busy mouth, fruit and soil together, shoving them in so hard that purple fruit rivers started flowing from the sides of his mouth. "What are you doing?" the older boys asked. "What are you doing? Explain yourself. Give us some answers. Give us all the answers." But the boy said nothing. He did not speak. He could not speak, with his mouth so full of tainted fruit. The older kids demanded he stop, but the boy kept eating. So they ran to fetch the boy's mother. "Your boy is eating mud," the older kids hollered. The boy's mother, mad as hell, demanded her son open his mouth to show her the evidence of his recklessness, his greed, his insanity. "Open your mouth," she barked. And the boy opened his mouth, and the mother looked inside and saw trees and snow-capped mountains and blue sky and all the stars and all the moons and planets and suns of the universe. And the mother hugged her boy close. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Who are you? Who are you?" "Who was he?" I asked Slim. "He was the boy with all the answers," Slim said. I speak into the darkness of our bedroom. "The boy had a whole world inside him," I say. "The boy who swallowed the universe," August says. Silence in the dark. "Gus," I say. "Yeah?" August replies. "Who is the man on the red phone?" "Do you really want to know?" "Yes." "I don't think you're ready to know," he says. "I'm ready to know." A long pause in the universe. "You just wrote it in the air, didn't you?" I say. "Yes," he says. "Please tell me, Gus. Who's the man on the red phone?" A long pause in the universe. "It's me, Eli." Boy loses balance. I will remember Mrs. Birkbeck through the plastic Santa Claus dancing on a coil spring next to the phone on Mrs. Birkbeck's office desk. Second week of December, last week of school. Christmas is coming. Sleigh bells ring. Are you listening? Poppy Birkbeck is the Nashville State High School guidance counsellor with the sunshine smile and the remarkably impervious optimism that refuses to shatter in a daily world of aborted teenage pregnancies and drug-addicted 16-year-olds and suburban Bracken Ridge child molesters touching up boys with wildly aggressive behavioural disorders who go home to wildly ignorant parents who go to dinner with suburban Bracken Ridge child molesters. "Frankly, Eli," says Mrs. Birkbeck, I don't know why we don't just remove you from the school altogether. Nashville High has nothing to do with Tennessee. Nashville was a suburb between Brackenridge and Brighton, further north towards Redcliffe, before it got squeezed out, obliterated, by time and progress. Nashville High is a 30-minute walk from our house, through a tunnel passing under the main road that takes locals to the Sunshine Coast. I've been at the school 6 weeks now. On the second day, a Year 10 boy named Bobby Lignette welcomed me to the school by inexplicably spitting on my left shoulder as I passed by the social science building's water cooler. It was a golly, a real deep snort of a golly, filled with yellowy phlegm and snot and all that is wrong with Bobby Lignette, who sat laughing on the social science port racks amid a group of giggling, zit-faced hyena buddies with mullet cuts. Bobby Lignette raised his right hand and hid his right forefinger as he waved his hand around. "Where is Pointer? Where is Pointer?" he sang, a kindergarten teacher singing in the tune of Frere Jacques. I looked down at my missing finger. My skin was winning the war on the open wound, gradually closing around the bone, but I still had to wear a small dressing over it, all the more eye-catching to wild schoolyard lions like Bobby Lignette. Then his pointer forefinger appeared. "Here I am! Here I am!" he guffawed. "Fucking freak," he said. Bobby Lignette is 15 years old and has 2 chins and chest hair. In the 3rd week of my enrolment, Bobby Lignette's friends held me down as Bobby squirted the entire contents of a tomato sauce bottle from the tuck shop into my hair and down the back of my shirt. I did not report these deeply frustrating acts to the teachers because I didn't want something as mind-numbingly predictable as school bullying upsetting my plan. August offered to stab Bobby Lignette in the ribs with Dad's fishing knife, but I asked him not to because I knew that, apart from the fact it was well past the time when August had to stop fighting my battles, this too would upset my plan. In the beginning of this 6th week of my enrolment, in the tunnel underpass as I was walking home from school last Monday, Bobby Lignette tore my canvas backpack from my shoulders and set it alight. I watched that backpack burning, and the fire in my eyes told me, deep down inside, that Bobby Lignette had just upset my plan, largely because inside that backpack were my plans. A whole blue-lined school exercise book filled with all my ideas and carefully crafted strategies written in ink. I had schedules in that pad, and diagrams, and sketches of grappling hooks, and ropes, and measurements of walls. The masterpiece of these plans was sketched in pencil across the pad's central 2-page opening, the product of valuable prison intel passed directly to me by the Houdini of Boggo Road. A perfect bird's eye view, 2B pencil blueprint of the grounds and building of the Boggo Road Women's Prison. "How could you do something so violent?" Poppy Birkbeck asks across the desk. She dresses like one of the 1960s singers Mum loves. She dresses like Melanie Safka. Her arms are folded across her desk, and from her elbows hang the fire-coloured sleeves of a loose dress, part American Indian smoking ceremony leader, part Sunshine Coast hinterland seller of sculptures carved from tree trunks. "I mean, this is not the kind of behaviour one displays in the schoolyard," she says. "I know, Mrs. Birkbeck," I say sincerely, putting the plan back on track. "It's not schoolyard behaviour. It's more like something you'd find in a prison yard." "It really is, Eli," she says. And it really was. Straight out of Boggo Road's number 1 yard. A simple slice of porridge thuggery. All one needs is a pillowcase, something unbreakable, and a breakable kneecap. I had stolen a pillowcase from the Year 8 home economics class at 10 a.m. that morning. We were learning to sew. Most of us boys sewed handkerchiefs, But the real home economics stars, like Wendy Docker, sewed pillowcases adorned with stitched images of Australian fauna. I filled Wendy Docker's Kookaburra pillowcase with 2 5-kilo weight plates I stole from the sports equipment room during our 11 a.m. health and physical education class. Shortly after the 12:15 p.m. lunch bell, I found Bobby Lignette standing in line at the Central Quad handball courts, scoffing a Chico roll among his hyena buddies. I approached Bobby the way my pen pal Alex Bermudez, former Rebels Motorcycle Gang Queensland Sergeant-at-Arms, said one should approach the unaware victim in a shiv attack. I knew the words of Alex's letters like I knew the words to Candles in the Rain by Melanie Safka. You want to be coming at the victim from behind. Shove the shiv in as close as you can to the kidneys. They'll drop like a bag of spuds. The key is to shove the shiv in hard enough to get your point across, but soft enough to avoid a murder charge. A fine balance indeed. I shuffled quick and hard at Bobby. The pillowcase twisted taut, so the 5-kilo weights became the head of a cotton Kookaburra embroidered mace, and I swung with force at his right kidney, just above his grey school shorts. His Chico roll dropped to the ground as he keeled over to his right, collapsing like a crushed can of Pasito with the pain and shock of impact. He had time enough to register my face, and time enough for rage blood to fill his own, but not time enough to anticipate my follow-up full-arm swing blow to his right kneecap. Hard enough to get my point across, soft enough to avoid expulsion. Bobby hopped on his left foot for 2 steps, clutching desperately at his busted right kneecap. Then he crashed down on his back on the rough, skin-grazing bitumen of the handball court's King Square. I stood above him with the pillowcase weights raised above his head, and I knew the fury inside me was the only gift my father had given me in a decade. "Cunt!" I screamed into his face. Spit was coming from my mouth. The holler was so loud and primal and frightening and mad that Bobby's friends stood back from us, like they were stepping back from a bonfire with a burning can of petrol at its core. "Stop it!" I said. Bobby was crying now. Bobby was pale, and his face was red and reeling so hard away from the pillow weights I thought his head might sink through the handball court. "Please, stop it," I said. Mrs. Burbeck's office is decorated with painted aluminium animals, a green frog clinging above a filing cabinet on the wall to my right, an eagle soaring along the wall behind her back, a koala clinging to a gum tree she's painted on the wall to my left. These decorations all serve to complement the office's real talking piece, a large framed wall print of a penguin scurrying across a vast ice desert above the words, "Limitations. Until you spread your wings, you'll have no idea how far you can walk." On her desk beside her phone is a fundraising coin box for Shelley Huffman. I hope Poppy Birkbeck takes that Limitations penguin poster down for Shelley. There's a picture of Shelley smiling on the coin box in her Nashville uniform, all gappy teeth in one of those forced over-the-top smiles artful Dodger kids like Shelley smile when some gruff photographer asks them to put a little more effort into it. Shelley is in my Year 8 class. She lives around the corner from our house in a housing commission place on Tor Street, which August and I walked down to get to school. 4 months ago, Shelley's parents found out that the second eldest of their 4 kids will live the rest of her life with muscular dystrophy. August and I like Shelley, even if she is an A-grade smart-ass most days we walk past her house. She's the only friend we've made so far in Bracken Ridge. She keeps asking me to challenge her to arm wrestles on her front porch. She usually beats me because her arms are stronger boned and longer boned, and she has beat me on leverage. "Nah, hasn't come yet," she says when she beats me. She says she'll know when the muscular dystrophy has properly arrived when I can beat her in an arm wrestle. The school is on a fundraising drive to help fit out Shelley's home with outside and inside wheelchair ramps and rails in the bathroom and Shelley's bedroom and kitchen, generally making the house what Shelley calls fuck-up friendly. Then the school hopes to purchase a wheelchair-friendly family van for the Huffmans, so they can still drive Shelley to Manly on the east side of Brisbane, where she likes to watch skiffs and yachts and tin rowboats sail into the Moreton Bay horizon. The school hopes to raise $70,000 to future-proof the home. The school's so far raised $6,217, or what Shelley calls half a ramp. Mrs. Birkbeck clears her throat and leans in close across the desk. I phoned your father 4 times and he did not answer. He never answers the phone, I say. Why not? Because he doesn't like talking to people. Can you please ask him to call me? He can't. Why not? Our phone only takes incoming calls. The only number it can call is 000. Can you ask him to please come in and see me? It's extremely important. I can ask, but he won't. Why not? Because he doesn't like to leave the house. He only ever really leaves the house between the hours of 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. when nobody else is around. Or when he's pissed and he's run out of piss. Watch your mouth. Sorry. Mrs. Birkbeck sighs, leans back in her chair. Has he taken you and August to see your mother yet? I slept in after that first night in Lancelot Street. I woke to find August's bed was empty and my neck was stiff from sleeping on a rolled bath towel. I walked out of August's room, across the hall, and past my father's open bedroom door, on the way to the toilet. I saw him on his bed. He was reading. I opened the door of the toilet and saw that the toilet floor was now spotlessly clean and smelling of disinfectant. I took a long piss and walked into the bathroom off the toilet. The bathroom was 4 white walls, a yellow bathtub, a mould-covered shower curtain, a mirror, a sink, a lonely and spent lick of yellow soap, and a lime-green plastic circular comb. I stared at myself in the mirror, and I didn't know if I was sick from hunger or sick from the question I had to ask the man reading in the room beyond the bathroom door. I knocked on his door, and he turned to me, and I tried not to look like I was looking so hard at the darkness of his face, and I was thankful for all the translucent blue-grey cigarette smoke filling the room that put a veil between us. Can we go see Mum? I asked. No, he said, and he returned to his book. Mrs. Birkbeck sighs. I've asked him 100 times in the past 6 weeks, and he says the same thing, I say. Why do you think he doesn't want to take you up to see her? Mrs. Birkbeck asks. Because he still loves Mum, I say. Wouldn't that mean he'd want to see her? Nah, because he hates her too. Did you ever consider the possibility that your father might be shielding you from that world? Perhaps he feels you shouldn't have to see your mum in that situation. No, I didn't even consider that. Have you spoken to your mum? No. Has she called the house? No, I don't expect her to either. She's not well. How do you know that? I just know. Mrs. Birkbeck looks at my right hand. Tell me again about your lost finger. August chopped it off with an axe, but he didn't mean to. He must have been devastated when he realised what he'd done. I shrug. He was pretty philosophical about it, I say. August doesn't really do devastation. How's your finger coming along? It's good. Healing. Are you writing okay? Yeah, a bit messy, but I get by. You like to write, don't you? Yeah. What sort of things do you like to write? I shrug. I write true crime stories sometimes, I say. What about? Anything. I read the crime features in the Courier Mail, and then I write my own versions of those stories. That's your goal, isn't it? What? To write about crime? One day I'm going to write for the Courier Mail's crime pages. You interested in crime? I'm not interested in crime as much as the people who commit crimes. What interests you about the people? I'm interested in how they got to the point they got to. I'm interested in that moment when they decided to be bad instead of good. Mrs. Birkbeck sits back in her chair, studies my face. Eli, do you know what trauma is? She asks. Her lips are thick, and she uses a lot of deep red lipstick. I will remember trauma through Poppy Birkbeck's ruby bead necklace. Yes, I say. I will remember the plan. And do you know that trauma can reach us in many forms, wearing many masks, Eli? She asks. Yes, I say. Trauma can be brief. Trauma can last a lifetime. There are no fixed ends on trauma, correct? Correct. Stick to the plan. You and August have endured great trauma, haven't you? I shrug, nod at the fundraising coin box on her desk. Well, nothing like Shelley, I say. Yes, but that's a different kind of trauma, Mrs. Birkbeck says. Nobody was responsible for her misfortune. Well, Shelley did call God an arsehole the other day, I say. Watch your mouth. Sorry. Mrs. Birkbeck leans in closer across her desk, places her right hand over her left hand. There's something pious in the way she sits. What I'm trying to say, Eli, is that trauma and the effects of trauma can change the way people think. Sometimes it can make us believe things that are not true. Sometimes it can alter the way we look at the world. Sometimes it can make us do things we normally wouldn't do. Sly Mrs. Birkbeck. Woman wants to suck me dry. She wants me to throw her a bone about my missing bone. Yeah, trauma is pretty weird, I guess, I say. Mrs. Birkbeck nods. I need you to help me, Eli, she says. You see, I need to be able to explain to the heads of school exactly why we should give you another chance. It is my belief that you and your brother August could be genuine assets to the Nashville High community. It is my belief that you and August are very special indeed. But I need you to help me, Eli. Will you help me? I will remember the plan. Okay, I say. She opens a drawer on the right of her office desk and she retrieves a rolled sheet of butcher's paper fixed in place by a rubber band. This is a painting your brother created in art class 2 days ago, she says. She rolls the rubber band off the paper, the rubber snapping against the paper as she rolls it. She spreads the paper out and shows me the painting. It's a vivid image in blues and greens and purples. August has painted the sky blue Holden Kingswood resting on an ocean floor. Tall emerald reeds surround the car. A seahorse gallops across the underwater scene. August has painted my dream. Who is that, Eli? Mrs. Birkbeck asks, pointing to the painted man sitting in the front seat. I will remember the plan. That's my dad, I guess, I say. And who is that? She asks, pointing to the Kingswood's back seat. I will remember the plan. That's August. And who is that? I will remember the plan. That's me. I see, Mrs. Birkbeck says gently. And tell me, Eli, why are you all sleeping? This could really upset the plan. Boy seeks help. "5 days to Christmas and I can't sleep. We have no curtains or blinds on our bedroom's single sliding window, and the blue post-midnight moonlight falls on August's right arm hanging over his bed. I can't sleep because my mattress is itchy and smells like piss. Dad was given the mattress by Cole Lloyd, an Aboriginal man who lives 5 houses up on Lancelot Street with his wife Kylie and their 5 kids, the eldest of whom, 12-year-old Ty, slept upon this orange foam mattress before me. The smell of piss keeps me up, but what woke me was the plan." "Gus, you hear that?" Gus says nothing. It's a moaning sound. I think it's Dad. He's not drinking tonight because he's coming off a 3-day bender. He got so spectacularly pissed on the first night of the bender that August and I were able to crawl under the gap beneath the living room lounge while he was watching the outlaw Josie Wales on television, and we tied the shoelaces of his Dunlop volleys together, so that when he stood up to abuse one of the many villainous union men who foolishly killed Clint Eastwood's on-screen wife and child, he would fall down heavily, crashing over the coffee table. He fell down over 3 times before he realised his shoelaces were tied, at which point he vowed, through a largely incoherent barrage of slurred words and at least 23 cunts, to bury us alive in the backyard beside the dead macadamia nut tree. "As fucking if," August wrote in the air with his forefinger, shrugging his shoulders as he got up to turn the TV over to Creepshow, which was showing on Channel 7. On the second day of the bender, Dad put on his jeans and a button-up shirt and, with a second wind brought about by 6 Saturday morning rum and cokes and a splash of Brut cologne, he caught the 5:22 bus without saying where exactly he was going. He came home that night at 10 p.m. while August and I were watching Stripes on Channel 9. He walked through the back door, straight through the kitchen to the cabinet where he keeps the telephone he never answers. Beneath the telephone is the important drawer. This is the drawer where he keeps unpaid bills, paid bills, our birth certificates, and his Serapax tablets. He opened the important drawer and retrieved a dog chain leash that he wrapped methodically around his right fist. He didn't even acknowledge August and me sitting on the lounge when he turned the television off, followed by every light in the house. He walked to the front window and drew the old frilly creamed-coloured curtains closed, peering out the crack where the 2 curtains met. "What is it?" I asked, feeling sick in the stomach. "Dad, what is it?" He simply sat down on the lounge in darkness and tightened the dog chain around his fist. His head flopped dizzily about for a moment, then he focused on his raised left forefinger, which he brought with great concentration to his mouth. "Shh," he said. We didn't sleep that night. August and I let our imaginations run wild, guessing at what dangerous entity or entities he had offended enough to warrant the dog leash fist wrapping. Some goon at the pub, some hulk on the way to the pub, some killer on the way home from the pub, every single person inside the pub, ninjas, Yakuza, Joe Frazier, Sonny and Cher, God and the devil. August wondered what the devil would look like standing at our door. I said he would wear light blue flip-flops and sport a mullet cut with a rat's tail and a Balmain tiger's beanie to hide his horns. August said the devil would wear a white suit with white shoes and white hair and white teeth and white skin. August said the devil would look like Titus Brosh, and I said that name felt like something from a different world, a different time and place that we didn't belong to anymore. All we belonged to was 5 Lancelot Street. "Another Gus and Eli," he said. "Another universe," he said. Dad spent the following morning sitting on the kitchen floor by the entrance to the laundry, rewinding and playing, rewinding and playing, rewinding and playing Ruby Tuesday on a cassette tape until the tape jammed in the player and the reel of brown tape unspooled in his hands like a mess of curled brown hair. August and I were eating Weet-Bix at the kitchen table as we watched him hopelessly attempt to fix the tape, but succeed only in pulling the tape further and further into chaotic and irreparable oblivion. This forced him to resort to his Phil Collins tapes, the only point in the whole drunken 3-day domestic nightmare when August and I genuinely considered notifying the Department of Child Safety. The vivid and violent bender climaxed at 11 a.m. that morning with a spectacular blood and bile vomit over the kitchen's peach-coloured linoleum floor. He passed out so close to his own abstract gut spillage that I was able to take hold of his arm and extend his right forefinger so I could use it as a pencil to write a message he would have to see when he woke up sober. I dragged and swished his forefinger through the foul-smelling vomit to form a capital letters message straight from the heart. Seek help, Dad. The sound slips under the crack of our bedroom door. Then a desperate call, frail and familiar. August! Dad calls from his bedroom. I shake August's arm. August! I say. He doesn't stir. August! Dad calls. But the call is soft and weak, more a moan than a call. I walk to his bedroom door in darkness, switch on his light, my eyes adjusting to the brightness. He's clutching his chest with both hands. He's hyperventilating. He speaks between short, sharp breaths. Call an ambulance, he says. What's wrong, Dad? I bark. He sucks for air he can't find, gasping, his whole body trembling. He moans. I run down the hall, dial 000 on the phone. Police or ambulance? Asks a woman on the phone. Ambulance. The phone patches through to a different voice. What's your emergency? My father is going to die, and I'll never get the answers from him. I think my dad's having a heart attack. Dad's next-door neighbour on the left, a 65-year-old taxi driver named Pamela Waters, is drawn out to the street by the flashing lights of the arriving ambulance, her unwieldy breasts threatening to spill from her maroon nightgown. 2 ambulance officers lift a gurney from the back of the ambulance and leave it by the letterbox. Everything all right, Eli? Asks Pamela Waters, fixing the satin belt of her gown. Not sure, I say. Another turn, she says knowingly. What the fuck does that mean? The ambulance officers, one carrying an oxygen tank and mask, rush past August and me, standing barefoot in our matching white singlets and pyjama shorts. He's in the room at the end of the hall, I call. We know, buddy. He'll be all right, says the oldest ambulance officer. We go inside and stand at the living room end of the hall, listening to the ambulance officers in the bedroom. Come on, Robert, breathe, hollers the oldest officer. Come on, mate, you're safe now. Nothing to worry about. Sucking sounds, heavy breathing. I turn to August. They've been here before. August nods. There you go, says the younger ambulance officer. That's better, isn't it? They carry him out of the bedroom and down the hall, an arm each under his thighs, the way the Parramatta Eels forwards carry the starry halves in the grand final celebrations. They haul him onto the gurney, Dad's face pressed to the gas mask like it was a long-lost lover. Are you all right, Dad? I ask. I don't know why I care so much. Something deep inside me, something dormant, something pulling me towards the crazed drunk. I'm all right, mate. he says. And I know that tone in his voice. I remember that tenderness in the tone. I'm all right, Eli. I'm all right, Eli. I will remember this scene. Him on a gurney like this. I'm all right, Eli. I'm all right. The tone of it. I'm sorry you boys had to see this, he says. I'm fucked. I know, mate. I'm fucked at this dad stuff. But I'm gonna fix myself, all right? I'm gonna fix myself. I nod. I want to cry. I don't want to cry. Don't cry. It's okay, Dad, I say. It's okay. The ambulance officers load him into the back of their vehicle. Dad sucks some more gas, pulls the mask away. There's a frozen shepherd's pie in the freezer you can have for dinner tomorrow night, he says. He sucks again on the mask. His eyes catch sight of Pamela gawking in her nightgown. He sucks enough air into his lungs to say something loud. Take a fucking Polaroid, Pam! He barks, wheezing with the effort. Dad's flipping Pamela Waters the middle finger when the officers close the rear ambulance doors. The next morning there is an ibis walking through our front yard. It's favouring its left leg, which is wrapped in fishing line at the base where its prehistoric black claw foot begins. The crippled ibis. August watches the ibis through the living room window. He holds his Casio calculator, taps some numbers, and holds the calculator upside down. Ibis hell. I type in 5378804, turn it upside down. Hobbles. I'll be back before dinner, I say. August nods, staring out to the ibis. Save me some pie, I say. Down the left side ramp, past the black wheelie bin, Dad's rusting bicycle leans against a concrete stump, holding the house up beside the tan cylinder of the hot water system. Beyond the bicycle is the vast below-the-house dump of Dad's collected gallery of ancient household white goods. Washing machines with engines like the ones used by Qantas, disintegrating refrigerators filled with redback spiders and brown snakes, and discarded car doors and seats and wheels. The grass of the backyard is beyond mowing now, towering and leaning straw-coloured shoots so thick I can picture Colonel Hutty, the elephant, and Mowgli parting them on their way to the big rooster on Barrett Street. Only a machete could bring it all down now. An accidental fire, maybe. What a fucking shithole. 008, Boo, 5514, Hiss. The bike is a rusting black 1976 Malvern Star Sports Star model made in Japan. The seat is split and keeps pinching my ass cheeks. It goes quick, but it would go quicker if Dad hadn't gone and replaced the original handlebars with handlebars from a 1968 women's Schwinn. The brakes don't work, so I have to brake by jamming my right Dunlop between the front wheel and the front wheel brace. It's been raining, and the sky is grey, and a rainbow arches over Lancelot Street, promising everybody here a beginning and an end in 7 perfect colours. Red and yellow, and Vivian Hipwood in 16 Lancelot Street, whose baby died of cot death, and for 7 days she continued to dress it and nurse it and rattle toys in front of its blue face. Pink and green, and number 17, where 66-year-old Albert Lewin tried to gas himself in his sealed garage, but couldn't get the job done because he was only gassing himself with a rattling lawnmower because he'd sold his car 2 months before to pay for the vet surgery bills for his boxer dog, Jaws, who'd been put down 2 days before Albert pushed his green Victor into his garage. Purple and orange and black and blue. All the mums along Lancelot Street on a Saturday morning, smoking Winfield Reds at the kitchen table, hoping the kids don't spot the purple and orange and black and blue bruising beneath the concealer on their cheekbones. The concealer. The concealers. The concealed. Lester Crowe, in 32 Lancelot Street, who stabbed his pregnant girlfriend Zoe Penny 13 times in the stomach with a heroin syringe to kill his unborn daughter. The Monk brothers in 53 Lancelot Street, who tied their father to a living room armchair and cut half his ear off with a tomahawk. When it's so hot in summer on this endless street and the Brisbane City Council has laid new bitumen over potholes that explode in frustration, the tar sticks to the rubber of your Dunlops like Hubba Bubba bubblegum, and everybody pulls open their curtains, despite all the mosquitoes blowing in from the Brighton and Shorncliffe mangroves, and this whole street becomes a theatre, and all those living rooms are window-framed to become televisions playing a live daytime soap opera called Thank God It's Dole Day, and a ribald comedy called Pass the Chicken Salt, and a police procedural drama called The Colour of a 2-cent Piece. Fists are thrown through these front window theatre screens, and laughs are had, and tears are shed. Boo fucking hiss. Boo fucking who. Hey, Eli. It's Shelley Huffman, leaning out her bedroom window, blowing cigarette smoke to the side of her house. I jam my shoe in the front wheel and pull a U-turn in the middle of the street and guide Dad's rickety Malvern Star into Shelley's driveway. Her dad's car isn't in the carport. Hey, Shelley, I say. She drags on the cigarette, blows seasoned O-rings on the exhale. You want a drag? I suck 2 drags and blow them out. You by yourself? I ask. She nods. They all went to King's Beach for Bradley's birthday, she says. Didn't you want to go?
I did, Eli Bell, but it's this old bag of bones,
Shelley says, adopting the voice of an old American grandmother from the Wild West.
She don't walk too well across sand no more.
So they left you home alone? My aunt's coming soon to babysit, she says. I told Mum I'd prefer the dog motel on Fletcher Street. I hear they give you 3 meals a day, I say. She laughs, stubs the cigarette out on the underside of the windowsill, flicks the butt into the garden running along the neighbour's fence line. Heard the Ambos took your old man to hospital last night, she says. I nod. What happened to him? I don't know, really, I say. He just started shaking. Couldn't speak or nothing. Couldn't catch a breath. A panic attack, she says. A what? Panic attack, she says casually. Yeah, Mum used to get him a few years ago. She went through a bad patch where she didn't want to do anything, ever, because she'd start having panic attacks if she went out among too many people. She'd wake up feeling on top of the world and tell us she'd take us all to the movies at Toombul Shopping Town. Then we'd get all dolled up and she'd have a panic attack the minute she sat in the car. How did she get over them? I got diagnosed with MD, she says. She had to get over them then. She shrugs. See, that's called perspective, Eli, she says. A bee sting smarts like a bitch until someone clubs you with a cricket bat. And speaking of the old English willow, you want to play a game of test match? I'll let you be the West Indies. Nah, I can't, I say. I'm going to meet someone. This part of the big secret plan. She smiles. You know about the plan? Gus wrote it all out for me in the air, she says. That pisses me off. I look up to the grey sky. Don't worry, I won't say a word, she says. But I think you're fucking nuts. I shrug. Probably am, I say. Mrs. Birkbeck thinks I am. Shelley rolls her eyes. Mrs. Birkbeck thinks we're all nuts. I smile. It is nuts, Eli, she says. And she looks at me with a pretty smile, all heart and sincerity. But it's sweet, too. And for a moment, I want to drop the plan and go inside and sit on Shelley Huffsman's bed playing test match. And if she hit a six by her favourite batsman, the dashing South African Kepler Wessels, with the small ball-bearing cricket ball cutting through the six space in the left corner of the octagonal green felt cricket ground, we could celebrate with a hug, and because her family is all out, and because the sky is grey, we could fall back on her bed, and we could kiss, and maybe I could drop the plan forever. Drop Titus Brosh. Drop Lyle. Drop Slim and Dad and Mum and August, and just spend the rest of my life caring for Shelley Huffman as she fights that unfair and imbalanced asshole God who gives Ivan Kroll 2 strong arms to kill with and gives Shelley Huffman 2 legs that can't walk across the golden sand of King's Beach, Caloundra. Thanks, Shelley, I say, wheeling the Malvern Star back out her driveway. Shelley calls from her window as I speed away. Stay sweet, Eli Bell. Lyle once told me they used concrete from Queensland Cement and Line Company in Darra to build the Hornibrook Bridge. He said it was the longest bridge built over water in the Southern Hemisphere, stretching more than 2.5 kilometres from seaside Brighton to the glorious seaside peninsula of Redcliffe, home of the Bee Gees and the Redcliffe Dolphins Rugby League Club. The bridge has 2 humps on it, one at the Brighton end and one at the Redcliffe end, where boats sailing along Bramble Bay can slip underneath it. I can smell the muddy mangroves skirting Bramble Bay on the wind that pushes the Malvern Star along the bridge, up over the first hump. Lyle called it Humpity Bump Bridge, because of the bumps his mum and dad's car made when he was a boy crossing over the buckled and rough aggregate bitumen surface that crackles beneath my bicycle wheels today. The bridge was closed to traffic in 1979 when they built a strong, wider, uglier bridge beside it. Now the Hornibrook is used only by a few Brim and Whiting and Flathead fishermen, and those 3 local kids pulling backflips off the tallow wood decking, spinning into a full and choppy green-brown tide so high the water lashes the iron safety rails that are peeling with yellow paint. Rain on my head, and I know I should have worn a raincoat, but I love the rain on my head and the smell of the rain on the bitumen. The sky gets darker the closer I get to the middle of the bridge. This is where we always meet, so this is where I find him, seated on the concrete edge of the bridge, his long legs dangling over the side. He wears a thick green raincoat with a hood over his head. His red fiberglass fishing rod with an old wooden LV reel rests between his right elbow and his waist as he hunches over, rolling a smoke. With his head under the hood, he can't even see me pull up in the rain, but somehow he knows it's me. Why didn't you wear a fucking raincoat? Slim says. I saw a rainbow over Lancelot Street and I thought the rain was done, I say. The rain's never done with us, kid, Slim says. I lean the bike against the yellow rails and inspect a white plastic bucket resting beside Slim. 2 fat brim swimming without moving forward or backwards inside the bucket. I sit beside him, my legs over the side of the bridge. The high tide water heaves and swells in peaks and valleys. Will the fish still bite in the rain? I ask. It ain't raining down there under the water, he says. The flathead come out in this. Mind you, different story fishing in a river. I've seen yellow belly out west go bonkers in the rain. How do you know when a fish is going bonkers? They start preaching about the end of the world. Slim chuckles. The rain gets heavier. He pulls a rolled courier mail from his fishing bag and spreads it out for me to use as a shelter. Thanks, I say. We stare at his taut line, dragged up and down by the Bramble Bay waves. You still want to go through with this? I have to, Slim, I say. She'll be all right once she sees me. I know it. What if that's not enough, kid? He asks. 2.5 years is a long time. You said it yourself. A lag gets a little easier every time you wake up. I didn't have 2 kids on the outside, he says. Her 2.5 years will feel like 20 of mine. That men's prison is filled with 100 blokes who think they're bad to the bone because they've done 15 years. But those blokes don't love nothing, and nothing loves them back. And that makes things easier for them. It's all those mums across the road who are true hard nuts. They wake each day knowing there's some lost little shit like you out there waiting to love them back. I take the newspaper off my head so the rain can hit my face and hide my wet eyes. But the man on the phone, Slim, I say. Dad just says I'm crazy. Dad just says I made him up. But I know what I heard, Slim. I know he said what he said. And Christmas is coming, and Mum loves Christmas like nobody I've ever seen love Christmas. Do you believe me, Slim? Do you believe me? I'm crying hard now. Hard as the black sky rain is falling. I believe you, kid, he says. But I also believe your dad is right not to take you up there. You don't need to see that world, and she don't need to see you in it. Sometimes it makes it hurt worse. Did you talk to your man? I ask. He nods, taking a deep breath. What did he say? I ask. He'll do it. He will? He will. What does he want from me in return? I ask. Because I'm good for it, Slim. I'll square it, I promise. Slow down, Roadrunner, he says. He winds in his line, turning the old Alvey reel 3 rotations, gentle and instinctive. You got a bite. Nibble. He winds in 1 more rotation. Silent. He's not doing it for you, he says. I kept his brother safe through a very long porridge a very long time ago. His name's George, and that's all you need to know about his name. He has a fruit wholesale business and he's been making fruit deliveries into Boggo men's and women's for the past 12 years. The guards know George, and the guards also know the things George carries inside, in the false floors beneath his watermelon and rockmelon crates. But of course, they're paid handsomely not to know about these things. Now, like any retail business on the outside, the Christmas season is a nice earning period for traders who care to make a few extra bucks from retail on the inside. George can usually bring in all kinds of gifts at Christmas time. He can smuggle in sex toys and Christmas cakes and jewellery and drugs and lingerie and little Rudolph lights that turn red with a tickle of his nose. He has never, however, through 12 years of successful clink trade, smuggled in a 13-year-old boy with a childish lust for adventure and an unshakable hankering to see his mum on Christmas Day. I nod. I guess not, I say. When you get caught, Eli, and you will get caught, you do not know George, and you do not know anything about George's fruit truck. You are mute. You understand? You will take a leaf from your brother's book and shut the fuck up. There will be a total of 5 trucks making deliveries on Christmas Eve and Christmas morning, all with their individual illegal bonus cargo. You can guarantee the screws will try to smuggle you out as quickly and as quietly as you came in. They're the last ones who want the world knowing a 13-year-old boy was found running around the grounds of Boggo Road Women's Prison. If they take it further up the food chain, then they're more fucked than you. Press comes in, then the prison standards crowd comes in, and the clink trade collapses, and the wife of one of those screws don't get that special mix master she's been dreaming about, and that screw don't get his Sunday morning pancakes and everything else that comes with them. You know what I mean? Do you mean sexual intercourse? I ask. Yes, Eli, I mean sexual intercourse. He jiggles the rod twice, studies the top of the line like he doesn't trust it. Another nibble? I ask. He nods, reeling his fishing line in a little more. He lights a smoke with his head tucked into his chest, cups the smoke from the rain. So where do I meet him? I ask. How will George know who I am? Slim blows a drag into the rain. He slips his left hand into the top pocket of a flannelette shirt inside his raincoat. He holds a slip of paper, folded in two. He'll know you, he says. He holds the slip of paper in his hands, dwells on it. You asked me that day in hospital about the good and the bad, Eli, he says. I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about that a good deal. I should have told you then that it's nothing but a choice. There's no past in it. There's no mums and dads and no where you came froms. It's just a choice. Good, bad. That's all there is. But you didn't always have a choice, I say. When you were a kid, you had no choice then. You had to do what you had to do. And then you got on a road that gave you no choice. I always had a choice, he says. And you got a choice today, kid. You can take this slip of paper, or you can breathe. You can step back and breathe. Ride on home and tell your old man you're looking forward to spending time with him on Christmas Day, and you ain't going to worry any more, because you know you can't do your mum's time for her. And that's what you're doing, boy. You're living inside that prison with her, and you're going to be there for the next 2.5 years if you don't step back for a second and breathe. I can't, Slim. He nods, reaches his hand out with the slip of paper. Your choice, Eli, he says. The slip of paper, peppered by rain. Just a slip of paper. Take the slip of paper. Take it. Are you going to be angry at me if I take it? He shakes his head. No, he says flatly. I take the slip of paper. I tuck it in my shorts pocket without even reading what's written on it. I stare out to sea. Slim stares at me. You can't see me no more, Eli, he says. What? You can't keep spending time with an old crook like me, kid, he says. You said you weren't going to get angry. I'm not angry, he says. If you need to see your mum, all well and good, but you leave this crook bullshit behind. You hear me? No more. My head throbs with confusion. My eyes swell. The rain on my cheeks and on my head and in my crying eyes. But you're the only real friend I've got. Then you need to get some new ones, he says. I drop my head. I put my fists in my eyes, press down hard like you press down on a cut to stop it bleeding. What's going to happen to me, Slim? I ask. You'll live your life, he says. You'll do things I only ever dreamed about. You'll see the world. I'm cold inside. So cold inside. You're cold, Slim, I say between the tears. I'm so angry inside. So angry inside. I reckon you did kill that cabbie, I say. You're a cold-blooded killer. Cold like a snake. I reckon you beat Black Peter because you don't have a heart like the rest of us. Maybe you're right, he says. You're a fucking murderer, I scream. He closes his eyes at the sudden noise.
Settle down,
he says, looking up and down the bridge, seeing no one in earshot. Everybody's gone. Everybody's got to go sometime. Everybody's running from the rain. Nobody running to it. So cold inside. You deserve everything you got, I spit.
That's enough, Eli,
he says. You're full of fucking shit, I scream. Slim shouts, and I've never heard him shout.
That's enough, damn it!
He hollers, and the shouting makes him wheeze, and he falls into a coughing fit. He brings his left arm to his mouth and coughs into his elbow, retching and rattling lung coughs like there's nothing inside him but old bone and the earth dust from Black Peter. He breathes deep, wheezing and spluttering, gargles and hacks up a phlegm spit that lands 2 metres to his right beside a couple of discarded pilchards. He calms himself.
I've done enough,
Slim says.
But I did it to too many people. I never said I didn't deserve the time I got, Eli. I just said I didn't do that killing. But I'd done enough, and God knew I'd done enough. And he wanted me to think on some other things I'd done, and I did that, kid. I did my time thinking on those things, and I thought them inside and out, and I don't need you thinking on them for me. You should be thinking about girls, Eli. You should be thinking about how you're going to climb the mountain, how you're going to climb out of that shithole you're living in there in Bracken Ridge. Stop telling everybody else's story and start telling your own for once.
He shakes his head, stares out to the brown-green sea. The tip of his rod bends sharply, once, twice, 3 times. Slim studies the rod silently. Then he reefs on the rod with a whipping pull, and it bows like the rainbow I saw over Lancelot Street.
Gotcha,
he says. The rain batters down, and the sudden action makes Slim cough uncontrollably again. He hands me his fishing rod as he attends to a coughing fit.
Flathead,
he says, between choking coughs.
Monster, about 10 pounds.
3 more coughs.
Pour in, will ya?
What? I say. I can't.
Just bloody wind it in.
He barks, standing now with his hands on his kneecaps, coughing up some vile witch's brew of tar and phlegm and blood. There's blood in his spit, and it hits the bridge's aggregate bitumen, and the rain washes it away, but it keeps coming. No colour as strong as the colour of Slim Halliday's red blood. I reel the line in frantically, darting my head back and forth between the sea and the blood at Slim's feet. The sea and the blood. The sea and the blood. The flathead pulls away with the line, swimming for life. I pull harder on the Elvie, winding in long, slow rotations like I used to turn the handle on the Rusty Hills hoist in the backyard of the Darragh house. I think it's a monster, Slim! I scream, as suddenly awed as I am elated.
Just stay calm,
he says between coughs.
Give him some line when you think he's gonna snap away.
Only when Slim's standing do I notice how thin he's become. I mean, he's always been thin. He's always been slim. Arthur Halliday needs a new nickname, but emaciated Halliday just doesn't have the same romance.
What are you looking at?
Slim wheezes, hunched over.
Pull that monster in!
I can feel the flathead zipping left and right through the water. Panicked, lost. For a time he comes with me, follows the pull from the hook in his lip, like he's had some divine message that that's where he's supposed to go, that the pilchard and the hook and the Bramble Bay tide, this rainy day, were the ultimate goal behind all that searching for survival along the ocean bed. But then he fights. He swims away hard, and the Elvie reel finger grips punch into the heel of my hand.
Fuck!
I shriek.
Fight him!
Slim wheezes. I yank on the rod and rotate the reel at once. Long, deliberate reels, rhythmic, purposeful, relentless. The monster is tiring, but I'm tiring too. Slim's voice from behind me.
"Keep fighting,"
he says softly, coughing again. I reel, and I reel, and I reel, and the rain slams my face, and the world seems close to me now, every piece of it, every molecule. The wind, the fish, the sea, and Slim. The monster eases. I reel him in hard, and I see him approaching the top of the sea, surfacing like a Russian submarine. Slim! Here he comes! Here he comes! I howl, euphoric. He might be 80 centimetres long. He's closer to 15 pounds than 10. An alien monster fish, all muscle and spine and olive green flathead stealth. Look at him, Slim! I scream, ecstatic. I reeled the Elvie so fast that I could start a fire to barbecue the monster, then wrap him in tinfoil and bake him for Slim and me by the muddy mangrove banks on the Redcliffe side of the bridge, and follow him up with some toasted marshmallows dipped in Milo. The flathead rises into the air, and my rod and line are a crane hauling some priceless cargo up to a skyscraper, my monster flying through the black sky. The ocean bed dweller feeling rain on its back for the first time, glimpsing the universe above the sea, glimpsing my gasping face, wide-eyed and joyous. Slim! Slim! I got him, Slim! But I don't hear Slim at all. The sea and the blood. The sea and the blood. I turn from the fish back to Slim. He's lying flat on his back, his head turned to the side, blood still on his lips, eyes closed. Slim? The flathead whips its spiny, powerful frame in the air, snaps the fishing line cleanly. I will remember this through the weeping. I will remember this through the way my cheek rubs against the rough bristles of his unshaved face, the way I sit so awkwardly because I don't think about sitting. I just think about him, the way I can't tell if he breathes in the rain, the blood on his lips spilling to his chin, the smell of white ox tobacco, the small rocks from the bridge gravel biting into my kneecaps. Slim! I sob. Slim! I shout. The way I bob back and forth in pitiful confusion. No, Slim! No, Slim! No, Slim! The sound of my stupid, teary, breathless mumbling. I'm sorry I said what I said. I'm sorry I said what I said. I'm sorry I said what I said. And the way the monster fish plunges into the brown-green sea, down deep into the high tide, having seen the universe up here. He wanted to see it only for a second. He didn't like what he saw. He didn't like the rain. This is the end of CD 7. The book continues on CD 8. CD 8. Boy Parts C. Our Christmas tree is an indoor plant named Henry Bath. Henry Bath is an Australian weeping fig. Henry Bath is 5 feet tall when he sits in the terracotta pot Dad keeps him in. Dad likes trees, and he likes Henry Bath, with all his cluttered green leaves shaped like canoes and a grey fig trunk like a frozen carpet snake. He likes to personalise his plants, because if he doesn't personalise them, picture them possessing human needs and wants in some tiny and whimsical part of a mind I am only beginning to realise operates with as much order and predictability as the insides of our lounge room vinyl beanbag, then he is less inclined to water them, and the plant is more likely to succumb to the endless assault of Dad's stubbed-out rollies. He named Henry after Henry Miller and the bath he was lying back in reading Tropic of Cancer when he thought of naming the weeping fig. "Why does Henry weep?" I ask Dad as we slide the tree over to the centre of the living room where the ironing board stands 24/7, our old iron rusting away in its square metal hand.
"Because he'll never be able to read Henry Miller," he says.
We push the pot plant in place.
"Gotta be careful where we put him," Dad says. "Moving Henry to a new place kinda gives him a shock."
"You serious?" I ask.
He nods. "Different kind of light shines on him, new temperature in a new place, bit of a draft maybe, change in humidity, and he thinks it must be a different season. He starts shedding his leaves."
"So he can feel things?"
"Sure he can feel things," Dad says. "Henry Bath is a sensitive son of a bitch. That's why he turns on the waterworks all the time, like you."
"What do you mean, like me?"
"You like a good cry," he says.
"No, I don't," I say. He shrugs his shoulders.
"You love to cry as a bub," he says.
I forgot this. I forgot he knew me before I knew him. "I'm surprised you remember," I say.
"Of course I remember," he says. "Happiest days of my life."
He stands back and assesses the new location of Henry Bath.
"What do you reckon?"
Dad asks. I nod. August holds 2 pieces of Christmas tinsel in his hands, one twinkling red and one twinkling green, both of them losing their tinsel fibres over time, like Henry Bath slowly loses leaves and Dad might be slowly losing fibres of his mind. August lays the tinsel carefully over Henry Bath, and we stand around the weeping fig, marvelling at the saddest Christmas tree in Lancelot Street and possibly the Southern Hemisphere. Dad turns to us both.
"I got a Christmas box coming from St. Vinny's later this afternoon," he says. "Got some good gear in 'em. Can of ham, pineapple juice, some licorice squares. I thought we could have a bit of a day of it tomorrow. Give each other gifts and shit."
"What, you got us gifts?" I ask, dubious. August smiles, encouraging. Dad scratches his chin.
"Well, no," he says. "But I had an idea."
August nods. "Great, Dad." He writes in the air, urging Dad on.
"I had this thought that we could each choose a book from the book room and we could wrap it up and put it under the tree."
Dad says. Dad knows how much August and I have been enjoying his bedroom book mountain.
"But not just any old book," he says. "Maybe something we've been reading, or something that's really important to us, or something we think someone else might enjoy."
August claps his hands, smiling, gives a thumbs up to Dad. I'm rolling my eyes, as if my eye sockets were filled with 2 loose Cool Mint lollies from a St. Vincent de Paul Christmas charity box.
"Then, we can eat some licorice squares and read our books for Christmas," Dad says.
"And how is this any different from any other day for you?" I ask. He nods.
"Yeah, well, we can all read in the living room," he says. We can read together."
August punches me in the shoulder. "Stop being a dick. He's trying. Let him try, Eli." I nod. "Sounds great," I say. Dad goes to the kitchen table and tears a TAB betting slip into 3 pieces, scribbles a name on each piece with the pencil he uses to circle horses in the form guide. He screws the pieces up and holds them in his hand.
"You get to pick first, August,"
Dad says. August picks a piece of ticket, opens it with a glint of Christmas spirit in his eye. He shows us the name. Dad.
All right, Dad says. August picks a book for me, I pick a book for Eli, and Eli picks a book for August. Dad nods. August nods. Dad looks at me. You will stick around for it, won't you, Eli? Dad asks. August looks at me. You're an asshole, really. Yeah, I'll stick around, I say. I don't stick around. At 4 a.m. Christmas morning, I place a copy of Papillon for August beneath the Christmas tree, wrapped in the sports pages of the Courier Mail. Dad's wrapped his book for me in the Courier's classifieds pages. August has wrapped his book for Dad in the upfront news pages. I walk to the train station in the nearby seaside suburb of Sandgate, famed for its fish and chips and nursing homes, taking the shortcut, crossing over the motorway to the Sunshine Coast, normally a frantic exercise of Evel Knievel level insanity, requiring Bracken Ridge kids to leap a steel guardrail, dodge 4 lanes of speeding traffic, leap another steel guardrail, and slip through a hole the size of a dinner plate in a council wire fence while going undetected by police, or worse, concerned parents who have been pressuring the local council to build a footbridge across the highway for years. But this morning, the motorway is empty. I take my time slipping over the guardrails, whistling God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen as I go. Beyond the motorway is Racecourse Road, edging the Deegan Racecourse where, this early Christmas morning, in the half-light of a slow-waking sun, a young female rider does track work on a plucky mahogany thoroughbred. An old man in a beanie watches her ride, leaning against the racecourse fence. He looks a bit like Slim, but it can't be Slim because Slim's in hospital. Houdini Halliday is trying to escape from fate. Houdini Halliday is hiding in the bushes, ducking down as the skeleton in the cloak with the sharpened sickle snoops around him. "Merry Christmas," says the old man. "Merry Christmas," I nod, quickening my pace. Only 4 trains running today, and the 5:45 a.m. train to Central stops at Bindar Station, beside the iron pipes and the exposed factory conveyor belts of the foul-smelling Golden Circle cannery. Not so foul-smelling today because the cannery is closed. There was a Golden Circle 1-litre can of orange and mango fruit juice in our St. Vincent de Paul Christmas charity box that was dropped off yesterday afternoon by a warm-faced woman with ginger hair and red polished fingernails. There was a can of Golden Circle pineapple slices also, canned and shipped by the good folks of the Golden Circle cannery beside the Bindar train station. The old red truck is waiting where Slim's note said it would be waiting. It splutters in neutral on the corner of Chapel Street and St. Vincent's Road. The front of the truck is all fat curves and rust, like something Tom Joad would have driven on the road to California. The back of the truck is 4 iron walls forming a rectangular box with a blue canvas top the size of Dad's kitchen. I grip the shoulder straps on the backpack I'm carrying and approach the driver's side door. A man sits at the wheel smoking a cigarette, right elbow resting out his window. "George?" I ask. He's Greek, maybe Italian. I don't know. About Slim's age, bald head and chubby arms. He opens his door and slips out of the truck, stubs his cigarette out beneath a pair of worn running shoes that he wears with thick grey socks that bunch at his ankles. He's short and stocky, but quick in his movements. A man on the move. "Thanks for doing this," I say. He doesn't say anything. He opens the back of the truck, swings the metal back door wide and latches it to the side of the truck. He nods me up. I climb into the truck and he climbs up behind me. "I won't say a word, I promise," I say. George says nothing. The truck is filled with crates of fruit and vegetables, a box of pumpkins, a box of rock melons, a box of potatoes, a pallet jack by the left wall. By the rear door
is a large empty square crate sitting on a forklift pallet. George leans over into the crate and pulls out a false wood bottom 2/3 of the way down into the box. He nods his head right 2 times. I've read enough silent nods from August to know that what he means is, get in the box. I drop the backpack in the box and lift my legs over the side and lie down in the box. Will I be able to breathe in here? He points to drilled air holes on each wall of the crate. It's an impossibly tight fit, only achieved by lying on my left side with my legs pulled up hard to my belly. I cushion my head under my backpack. George assesses my fit and, satisfied, lifts the sheet of wood that forms the crate's false bottom and places it over my crowbarred body. Wait, I say. Do you have any instructions for what I should do at the other end? He shakes his head. Thank you, I say. It's a good thing you're doing. You're helping me help my mum. George nods. I'm not talking, boy, because you don't exist. You understand? He says. I understand, I say. You stay quiet and you wait, he says. I nod 3 times. The false wood bottom comes down over my body. Merry Christmas, George says. Then the darkness. The engine rattles into life and my head bangs against the crate floor. Breathe. Short, calm breaths. No time for one of those nasty panic attacks of Dad's. This is living. This is what Slim used to call living life at the coalface. All those other saps standing back from the coalface, worried about the rock wall caving in, but here I am, Eli Bell, scraping the walls of life, finding my seam, finding my source. There's Irene in the darkness, a silk slip, her exposed calf muscle, perfect skin and a freckle on her ankle. The truck speeds along the road. I can feel George's gear changes. I can feel every bump in the road. There's Caitlin Spies on the beach now. And she's wearing Irene's silk slip, and she's calling me. She beams, and she turns her head to see the eternal universe. The truck slows, comes to a stop, and I hear an indicator, and the truck turns left into the bump of a driveway. The truck moves forward, then reverses, and I hear the sound of the reversing beep. The truck stops. The rear door opens, and I hear George sliding an iron ramp from inside the truck and slamming it down on concrete. Then the sound of a machine, forklift probably, moving up the ramp. The smell of engine oil and petrol. The machine close to the crate. The crate shakes and rocks as 2 metal forks stab through the pallet beneath me, and suddenly I'm elevated inside the box. I'm moving. My head banging against the crate as the forklift moves down the iron ramp and is dropped heavily onto concrete. The forklift teeth slide out of the pallet and the machine moves back and forth. So close, I can smell the rubber in its moving wheels. Beep, beep, zip, zip, left, right. Then the sound of the forklift teeth raising another box in the air. Then something heavy raining on the false bottom above me. Bang! 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 The weight of the crate's new cargo flexes the false floor, and my heart races. There's fruit above me. I can smell it. Watermelons. Then I'm floating again, elevated by the forklift, dropped back into the truck, and we're moving again. I close my eyes, and I look for the beach, but all I see is Slim, and he's lying on his side like he was on the bridge, old blood on his lips. And I see his footprints in the sand, and I follow these footprints, and I see that the footprints belong to a man, and that man is Yvonne Kroll, and he's dragging a man behind him along the beach, and the man he is dragging is Lyle, wearing the same shirt and shorts he was wearing on the night we saw him last, the night he was dragged out of the house in Darra. I can't see Lyle's head because it's hanging down as he's being dragged, but I know the truth. I've known the truth ever since he disappeared. Of course I can't see his head. Of course I can't see his head. The truck brakes hard, takes a long turn right, then a hard left, up a sloping driveway with what feels like speed bumps. The truck stops. "Season's greetings, Georgie Porgy," calls a man outside the truck. George and the man talk, but I can't hear what they're saying. They laugh. I catch words. Wife, kids, swimming pool, on the piss. "Bring her in," the man says. The sound of a large mechanical door or a gate opening. The truck moves forward, motors up a gentle slope, and stops again. 2 men talking to George now. "Merry Christmas, Georgie," one says. "We'll make it quick, mate," says another man. "Tina making the cassata this year?" George says something back to the men to make them laugh. The door opens on the back of the truck. I hear the footsteps of 2 men climbing into the truck. They're inspecting the crates beside mine. "Look at this shit," says one of the men. "These bitches eat better than us. Fresh cherries, grapes, plums, rock melon. What? No chocolate-coated strawberries? No toffee apples?" They don't even touch the box I'm in. They step back out of the truck, close the rear door. The sound of a rattling roller door rising. "In you go, Georgie," calls one of the men. The truck moves forward slowly, takes several turns left and right, then stops. And again the rear door opens and the iron ramp slams down on the concrete. And again I'm elevated and I'm moving. On the forks of George's pallet jack this time, no engine, just rusting metal levers rattling. Down the ramp and onto a concrete floor. George brings down 6 more crates and drops them beside me. I hear him slide the iron ramp back up into the truck. I hear him close the rear door, and then I hear his sneakers squeak as he walks towards my crate of watermelons with the false floor from some suburban Queensland spy book that nobody bothered to write. He whispers into the air hole. "Good luck, Eli Bell," he says. He taps the box twice and shuffles away. The truck's engine roars to life, echoing loud in this room I'm in, and fumes from the exhaust fill my cramped and increasingly claustrophobic spy space. Then silence. I make this time go fast with my fear. My fear makes me think. My thinking manipulates time. Where is she? Is she okay? Will she want to see me? What am I doing here? The man on the red phone. The man on the red phone. What was that thing Mrs. Birkbeck, guidance counsellor to the lost and restless, said about kids and trauma? What was that thing about believing things that never happened? Is this really happening right now? Could I really be here? Trapped at the bottom of a box of watermelons on Christmas Day? Sublime to the ridiculous, and the ridiculous to the bottom of a box of fruit. How long have I been here now? 1 hour? 2 hours? If I'm this hungry, it must be lunchtime. Must be 3 hours. I'm so fucking hungry. August and Dad are probably having that canned ham as I speak, reading their Christmas books and sucking on golden circle pineapple slices. August's probably telling Dad how rugged and legendary prison escapee Henry Cherrier was nicknamed Papillon on account of the butterfly tattoo inked into his tanned and hairy chest. That's what I'm going to do if I get out of here. I'm going to go down to Travis Mancini's house on Percival Street in Bracken Ridge and ask him to do one of his homemade Indian ink tattoos, a bright blue butterfly spreading its wings from the centre of my chest. And when other kids see me swimming down at the Sandgate swimming pool, they will come up and ask me why I have a blue butterfly tattooed across my chest, and I can say it's my tribute to the will of Papillon, to the enduring power of the human spirit. I can say that I got that tattoo after I smuggled myself into the Boggo Road Women's Prison to save my mother's life, and I got the butterfly tattoo because I was a cocoon that day. I was a boy larva trapped in a pupal casing of watermelons, but I survived. I busted out of those watermelons renewed, metamorphosed. Boy swallows past. Boy swallows himself. Boy swallows universe. A door opening and closing. Footsteps. Rubber soles squeaking on polished concrete. Someone standing by the crate. Hands on the watermelon. The watermelon's being removed from the crate. I feel the weight shifting on the false bottom. Relaxing. Light floods my eyes as the false bottom is removed. My pupils fight the light and focus on the face of a woman leaning over the crate, looking down on me. An Aboriginal woman, big-boned and imposing, maybe 60 years old, grey roots in her black hair. "Oh, look at you," she says warmly. She smiles, and her smile is earth and sunshine and a blue butterfly flapping its wings. "Merry Christmas, Eli," she says. "Merry Christmas," I say, still crushed like a stomped Pasito can inside the box. "You want to get out of there?" the woman asks. "Yeah." She offers me her right hand and helps me up. There's a tattoo of a Dreamtime rainbow serpent twisting colourfully up the inside of her right arm. We learned about the rainbow serpent in Year 5 social studies at school. Giver of life, wondrous and majestic, but not to be fucked with. Not least because he might have regurgitated half of Australia into being. "I'm Bernie," she says. "Slim told me you'd be dropping by for Christmas." "You know Slim?" "Who doesn't know the Houdini of Boggo Road?" she replies, a grave look on her face. "How is he?" "I don't know," I say. "He's still in hospital." She nods, stares warmly into my eyes. "I should warn you, you've become the talk of the whole joint," she says. She brushes a soft hand across my right cheek. "Oh, Eli," she says, "every woman here who ever had a cup of milk in her tit is going to want to hold you." I scan the room we're standing in, stretching, clicking my aching neck back into a functioning place. We're in a kitchen, part practical cooking space with sweeping metal benches and sinks and drying racks, industrial ovens and stovetops. The entry door to the kitchen is closed, and steel roller doors have been pulled down over a service bain-marie with 12 compartments. We're standing in a kind of storage room space flowing off the kitchen. There's a roller door on the rear wall of the kitchen, which I must have come through. "This is your kitchen?" I ask. "No, it's not my kitchen," Bernie says, feigning offence. "This is my restaurant, Eli. I call it Jailbirds. Well, sometimes call it Cell Block 8, that's ATE, and sometimes I call it Bernie's Bars and Grill. But mostly I call it Jailbirds. Best beef burgundy you'll find south of the Brisbane River. Shit location for a restaurant, of course, but the staff are friendly, and we get a steady stream of about 150 loyal guests every breakfast, lunch, and dinner." I chuckle at this. She laughs, raising a finger to her mouth. "Shh! You gotta stay quiet as a mouse, you hear me?" I nod. "Do you know where my mum is?" She nods. "How is she?" Bernie stares at me. There's a tattooed star formation on her left temple. "Oh, sweet Eli," she says, her hands cupping my chin. "Your mum told us about you. She told us how special you and your brother are, and we all heard about how you was trying to get to see your mum, but your old man wasn't having it." I shake my head. My eyes catch a box of red apples on the kitchen bench. "You hungry?" Bernie asks. I nod. She steps to the apple box, wipes one on her prison pants the way Dennis Lilly shines a cricket ball, throws me the apple. You want me to fix your sandwich or something? She asks. I shake my head. We've got cornflakes in here. I think Tanya Foley down in D Block has a box of Fruit Loops she's smuggled in. I could rustle up a bowl of Fruit Loops for you. I bite into the apple, juicy and crisp. The apple's great, thanks, I say. Can I go see her? She sighs, pulls herself up onto the steel kitchen workbench, neatens out her prison shirt. No, Eli, you can't just go see her, she says. You can't just go and see her because, and I don't know if you've worked this out just yet, this is a bucking women's prison, matey, and it's not some bucking summer holiday resort where you can just wander on across to B Block and ask the concierge to page your bucking mum. Now get this straight. You've only come this far because Slim begged me to let you come this far. And you better start telling me why I should let this crackpot adventure of yours go any further. The sound of a choir echoes outside the kitchen. What is that? I ask. A beautiful choir, angel voices, a Christmas song. That's the Salvos, Bernie says. They're singing up a storm next door in the rec room. They come every Christmas? If we've been good little elves, she says. The song gets louder, 3-part harmonies squeezing through the crack beneath the door to Bernie's Jailbirds restaurant. What's that song they're singing? You can't hear it? Bernie starts to sing. A Christmas song. Winter Wonderland. That song about sleigh bells and snow and a bluebird. That song. She sways to me, smiling, still singing about the bird and the white snow and a magical wonderland. Something about her smile is unsettling. There's madness in Bernie. She's looking at me, but she's looking through me too. Sleigh bells ringing. Are you listening, Eli? The bluebird has flown away. There's a knock on the closed kitchen door. Come in, Bernie calls. A woman in her 20s enters the kitchen. She has blonde tufts of hair at the front of her scalp and blonde tufts of hair at the base of her scalp, and the rest of her hair in between has been shaved in a crew cut. Her arms and legs are bone with no meat, and her beaming smile to me when she enters the kitchen is the greatest gift I've received so far this increasingly unusual Christmas day. Then her smile fades when she turns to Bernie. She's not coming out, the woman says. She's fucking vacant, Bern. She's just staring at the wall, like she's dead to the world inside her head. She's not there at all. The woman looks at me. Sorry, she says. Did you tell her he's standing right here in the kitchen? Bernie asks. No, I couldn't, she says. Lord Brian's letting her keep the door closed. He's worried she'll have another spack attack. Bernie drops her head, thinking. She raises her arm at the woman, her head still down. Eli, this is Debbie, she says. Debbie smiles at me again. Merry Christmas, Eli, Debbie says. Merry Christmas, Debbie, I say. Bernie lifts her head, turns to me. Look, kid, you want it straight or you want it with the chocolate sauce and the cherry on top? Bernie asks. Straight, I say. She sighs. She don't look good, Eli, she says. She hasn't been eating nothing. She won't come out of her cell. I can't remember the last time she went outside for 3 p.m. rec. She was doing cooking classes with me in here for a bit, but she stopped doing that. She in a dark place, Eli. I know she is, I say. That's why I asked Slim to get me in here. But she doesn't want you seeing her that way. You understand me? She says. I know she doesn't want to see me, I say. I know that. But the thing is, Bernie, she does want to see me, even though she doesn't want to see me. And I need to go down there and tell her everything is going to be all right. Because when I tell her that everything will be all right, that's what always happens. It always turns out all right when I tell her it's going to. So, let me get this straight. You just go out there and tell your mum it's all going to be peachy for her inside this shithole and... Bernie clicks her fingers. Voila! Everything is all right for Frankie Bell. I nod. Just like that? She asks. I nod. Like magic? I nod. You some kind of magic man, Eli? She asks. I shake my head. Nah, come on, little cuz. Maybe you're the new Houdini of Boggo Road. She says mockingly. Maybe Slim sent us all the new Houdini to magically bust us all out of here. Can you do that, Eli? Maybe you could wave your wand and you could magic me right out to Dutton Park train station and I could go see one of my kids. I've got 5 of them out there somewhere. I'd be happy to see just one of them. My youngest, maybe. Kim. How old would Kim be now, do you reckon, Deb? Debbie shakes her head. Come on, Bern, she says. Poor kid's come this far. Let's just take him to see his mum. It's Christmas, for fuck's sake. Bernie turns to me. She just needs to see me for a minute, I say. I'm just looking out for your mum, kid, she says. No mother in the world wants her kid to see her like she is right now. And why should I let you go down there and hurt her even more than she's already hurting? You know, just to make your Christmas day a little merrier. And I stare so deep and serious into her eyes, I can see her steely soul. Because I don't know magic, Bernie, I say. Because I don't know anything about anything. But I know what my mum told me about my brother and me was right. What's that? Bernie asks. We're special. The prisoners of B Block are performing a musical this Christmas Day on a makeshift stage in the recreation room, and the ladies from blocks C, D, E and the F Block temporary huts, where spillover newcomers go when the main cells are full, have all gathered for a joyous and well-received post-lunch Christmas concert. The B Block Christmas performance is a fusion of the Nativity story and the musical Grease. The play features 2 female cons playing Mary and Joseph in the guise of John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. The 3 wise men are all members of the Pink Ladies gang. Baby Jesus is a doll dressed in leathers, and instead of spending a night in a manger, the future Lord and Saviour rests up in the boot of a cardboard greased lightning. The musical is called When a Child is Born to Hand Jive. The play's climactic showstopper, Mary singing You're the One That I Want for Christmas, brings the house down, and a thunderous cheer echoes through B Block. Even the Screws, 3 heavy-set men in green-brown uniforms standing at triangular points around the knee-slapping audience, find themselves immersed in the riotous cabaret stylings of the woman playing Mary in stick-on black leggings. All right, let's go, whispers Bernie, making the most of the play's magnetic and colourful all-eyes-on-stage distraction. I'm tucked inside a large black wheelie bin, and Bernie is pulling me along, the bin's lid closed above me. My feet squash down paper plates cleared from the prison dining tables at Christmas lunch. I'm up to my ankles in leftovers of canned ham and tinned peas and corn. She wheels me out of the prison kitchen area, past the dining room, crosses an open floor space behind the rec room, scurries past the audience with its head turned to Mary. She turns the bin on a sharp right, and my body is smashed against the greasy and foul-smelling inside walls. She scurries 30 or 40 paces along and sits the bin upright again, opens the lid, pops her head inside. What's my name? She asks. I don't know, I say. How the fuck do you get inside this place? I attach myself to the bottom of one of the delivery trucks. Which truck? I don't know, I say. The white one. Bernie nods.
Out you get,
she whispers. I stand up out of the bin. We're in a cell block corridor, lit only by the light of a frosted glass floor-to-ceiling window at the end of the corridor. Some 8 prison cells long. Each cell has a rectangular, hard glass window panel the size of Dad's letterbox built into the centre of it. I slip out of the bin, my backpack still over my shoulders. Bernie nods to the cell 2 doors along the corridor.
It's that one,
she says. She closes the lid on the bin and scurries away.
You're on your own now, Houdini, she whispers. Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Bernie, I whisper. I approach Mum's cell. The door's window is too high up for me to see into, even on the tips of my toes. But there's a recess in the thick door, and I can grip my fingers on it and pull myself up, using my knees to help push me up higher. My right hand slips because it only has 4 fingers to hold on with, but I go again, clutching hard at the window space, and I see her. She wears a white shirt underneath what looks like a light blue painter's smock. Her prison uniform makes her look so young, smaller, and more fragile than I've ever seen her. She looks like a little girl who should be milking dairy cows in rolling Swiss hills. On the right wall of the cell is a desk, and in the right rear corner is a chrome toilet and wash basin. There are 2 bunks bolted to the left wall of the cell, and she sits on the edge of the lower bunk, her hands cupped together and being squeezed between her kneecaps. Her hair is everywhere, hanging over her face and over her ears. She wears the same blue rubber sandals Bernie was wearing. My arms can't hold my weight, and I slip off the door. I climb again, gripping harder to the recess in the door. A longer look inside this time. I see the truth of it all. The skeletal shin bones of her legs, the elbows like the balls of a hammer, arms like the sticks I'd use to spark the fire that would burn to the ground this long-life light bulb jailhouse home for mums on Christmas Day. Her cheekbones have moved higher on her face, and her cheek flesh has disappeared, turned to a clay pan of thin skin. And her face doesn't look like it was grown by life, but drawn, shaded by a humorless and macabre colourist in pencil that could be rubbed away by a drop of spit and a swiftly moving forefinger. But it's not the legs or the arms or the cheekbones that trouble me. It's the eyes. Staring ahead at the wall opposite her, blank staring. So lost in that wall, it looks like her brain's been removed. She looks like Jack Nicholson after the lobotomy in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and the setting fits. I can't make out what she's staring at on that wall, but then I can. It's me. It's me in August, arm in arm. A photograph stuck to the cell wall. We have our shirts off, playing in the backyard of the Darra house, and August is forcing his belly right out, with his right-hand fingers making alien gestures in his tiresome ET phone home routine. I'm playing his extended belly like a bongo drum. I tap my knuckle gently on the glass panel. She doesn't hear. I knock hard and quick. She doesn't hear me. I slip off the door and I jump back on again. "Mom!" I whisper. I knock again. Knock twice, then 3 times. The last one too loud, too hard. I look right, up along the corridor. Laughter and applause still echo around the corner of B Block as the stars of When a Child is Born to Hand Jive make their triumphant end-show bows. "Mom!" I strain in a whisper. I knock louder. 2 heavy bangs, and she turns her head to me. Finds me looking frantically at her through the window. "Mum!" I whisper. I smile. And she lights up for a flicker. A light switches on inside her and switches off just as fast. "Merry Christmas, Mum!" And I'm crying now. Of course I'm crying now. I didn't know how much I needed to cry for her until now, hanging by my fingers to the door of cell 24 in the Boggo Road Women's Clink. "Merry Christmas, Mum." I beam at her. "See, Mum, see." After all this, after all these mad moments, after Lyle, after Slim, after you getting put away, it's still the same old me. Nothing changes, Mum. Nothing changes me. Nothing changes you. I love you more, Mum. You think I love you less, but I love you more because of it all. I love you. See? See that on my face? "Open the door, Mum," I whisper. "Open the door." I slip off, and I climb back up, and a nail splits hard on my right-hand middle finger, and blood runs down the top of my hand. "Open the door, Mum!" And I can't hold on now, and I wipe my eyes, and the tears make my fingers slippery, but I cling on again, just long enough to see her staring blankly at me, shaking her head. "No, Eli." I read that. I read it like I spent a decade reading my brother's silent gestures. "No, Eli. Not here. Not like this. No." "Open the door, Mum." I spill. "Open the door, Mum," I beg. She shakes her head. She's crying now too. "No, Eli. I'm sorry, Eli. No, no, no." My fingers slip off the door, and I fall to the hard, polished concrete floor of the prison corridor. I struggle to find my breath in my tears, and I lean back against the door. I bang my head twice, hard, against the door, which is harder than my head. And I breathe. I breathe deep. And I see the red telephone in Lyle's secret room. And I see the sky-blue walls of Lena Orlick's bedroom. I see the picture frame of Jesus who was born today. And I see Mum in that room. And I sing. Because she needs her song. I don't have a record player to play her song, so I sing her song instead. The one she played so much. Side one, third thick line from the edge. That song about a girl who never said where she came from. And I turn and sing into the cracks in the door. I sing into the light of a crack 1 centimetre wide. I lay down on my belly and I sing into the crack in the bottom of the door. Ruby Tuesday and her pain and her longing and her leaving and my cracking Christmas Day voice. I sing it. I sing it. Over and over I sing it. And I stop. And there is silence. And I bang my forehead against the door. And I don't care anymore. I'll let her go. I'll let them all go. Lyle, Slim, August, Dad, and my mum. And I'll go find Caitlin Spies, and I'll tell her I'm letting her go too. And I'll be dumb. And I won't dream. And I will crawl into a hole and read about dreamers like my dad does. And I'll read and drink and smoke and die. Goodbye, Ruby Tuesday. Goodbye, Emerald Wednesday. Goodbye, Sapphire Sunday. Goodbye. But the cell door opens. I can smell the cell immediately, and it smells like sweat and damp and body odour. Mum's rubber sandals squish on the floor by my side. She falls to the floor, crying. She puts a hand on my shoulder, weeping. She falls on me in the doorway of her cell. "Group hug," she says. I sit up and wrap my arms around her, and I squeeze her so tight, I worry I'm going to break one of the weak bones in her ribcage. I drop my head onto her shoulder, and I didn't know I missed that smell of Mum's hair, that feeling of her. "Everything's going to be all right, Mum," I say. "Everything's going to be all right." "I know, baby," she says. "I know. It gets good, Mum. I say. She hugs me tighter. It all gets good after this, I say. August told me, Mum. August told me. He says you just have to get through this little bit. Just this little bit. Mum weeps into my shoulder. Shh, she says, patting my back. Shh. Just get through this bit and it all goes up from here. August knows it, Mum. This is the hardest bit right here. It doesn't get any worse. Mum weeps harder. Shh. Mum says, just hold me, sweetie. Just hold me. Do you believe me, Mum? I ask. If you believe me, then you'll believe it will get better. And if you believe it, then it will. Mum nods. I'm going to make it better, Mum. I promise. I say. I'm going to get us a place where you can go when you come out, and it will be good. And it will be safe. And we can be happy, and you can be free there, Mum. This is just time. And you can do what you want with time, Mum. Mum nods. Do you believe me, Mum? Mum nods. Say it. I believe you, Eli, she says. Then a female voice echoes down the corridor. What the fuck is this shit? Barks a red-haired woman with a large belly and a backward lean, standing in her prison clothes, holding a plastic dessert bowl filled with wobbly red jelly, staring at Mum and me in the doorway of cell 24. She turns her head to the recreation area, hollering, What sort of crazy screws running here? She slams her dessert on the ground, furious. How the fuck does Princess Frankie deserve a contact day? She barks. Mum holds me tighter. I gotta go, Mum, I say, pulling out of the embrace. I gotta go, Mum. She clings to me hard, and I have to pull myself away from her. She drops her head, crying as I stand up. We'll get through this little bit, Mum, I say. It's only time. You're stronger than time, Mum. You're stronger than it. I turn and run down the corridor as a tall and broad-shouldered prison screw rounds the corner into Mum's cell wing, following the gaze of the red-haired woman. What the fuck? He says, stunned by the sight of me. I grip the arm straps of my backpack and sprint up the corridor. The screw has his hand on the top of the baton fixed into his belt. I see Brett Kenny in my mind's eye. Glorious 5/8 for the Parramatta Eels. I see all those backyard afternoons August and I spent practicing Kenny's blinding weave runs, his devastating right step. Stop right there, the screw demands. But I sprint harder, weaving left and right up the corridor, making the most of a 4-metre wide space, snaking up it like Brett Kenny would snake through a Canterbury Bulldogs defence line. I fade hard to the right side of the corridor, and the lumbering screw with his big lumbering legs and his tractor tyre belly fades with me into my line of movement. I'm within 2 metres of his reach when he props on both legs and puts his arms out wide to swallow me up, to net me like a slippery Bramble Bay flathead, a slippery eel. And it's then that I step hard and quick off my bouncing right foot and zip like a shot bullet to the far left of the corridor, ducking under his ambitious and useless flailing right arm as I go. Brett Kenny finds the gap, and the sea of blue and yellow Eels supporters in the western stands of the Sydney Cricket Ground rise to their feet. I turn left into B Block's open recreation and dining hall area, and the space is filled with 40 prison women, standing and sitting around dining tables and card tables and chess tables and knitting tables. Another prison screw, a short man but muscular and fast, spots me from across the hall and gives chase. I run through the dining hall, searching for an exit door, and the women laugh and holler and clap their hands. Another screw joins the chase from the left side of the dining room. Stop! The screw barks. But I don't stop. I sprint through the middle aisle of the hall as Mum's fellow prisoners bash their hands in delight on their food tables, making afternoon tea bowls of Christmas pudding, jelly, and custard bounce between their fists. I find no exit door, and the screws are circling in on me from either side, so I turn back around and take a diagonal run across the hall's steel dining tables. The screw I sidestepped in the corridor now enters the dining hall, angrily pushing through a sea of prisoners who have rushed from their seats before the Nativity Meets Grease stage spectacular to see the surreal scene of the boy bouncing across Boggo Road tables and chairs like the hero of a Looney Tunes sketch. The screws angrily and clumsily hop onto the tables in chase and rush through aisles to head me off, barking threats I can't quite hear beneath the roar of the SCG crowd. Kenny! Brett Kenny! Into space! The master! Eli Bell! Heading for the try line! Certain to score! Certain to etch his name into rugby league legend! I leap between tables like a Russian ballerina, evading the swiping arms of the hapless screws, the way Errol Flynn evaded the blades of cinematic pirates. And the prisoners are inside a rock and roll show now, pumping their fists at the exploits of the dashing Eels 5/8, with the jets in his rubber soles of his Dunlop KT-26s. I leap off one table onto the polished concrete floor at the entrance to the dining hall, where the women prisoners stand back. A parting of the sea of female cons to form a loose guard of honour I can run through. And these women know my name somehow. Go, Eli! They scream. Run, Eli! They scream. So I run, and I run, until I can see the exit door beyond the common area joining the kitchen and the cells and the dining hall. It's a door that opens out to a lawn outside. Freedom. Kenny. Brett Kenny for the try line. Sprinting, sprinting. The screw's on my tail, and another screw, a fourth screw, coming at me from my right to block my access to the exit door. It's the full-back for the Canterbury Bulldogs, the full-back screw. Every team's last line of defence, the best technical defender in the team, agile and strong, always making arcing and streaking cover tackle runs across the field to end the grand final dreams of gods like Brett Kenny. Mum used to run as a girl, was a fine sprinter, won sprint races at athletics carnivals. She once told me the way to get an extra kick, the extra edge, was to get lower on the ground. Picture yourself as a plough and your legs are digging up the earth, and you're digging into the earth for the first 50 of a 100-metre dash and digging yourself out again for the last 50, leaning your head back and your chest out across the finish line. So I'm the plough now, as the fourth screw arcs across the prison floor. But I'm not a strong enough plough, and his trajectory is certain to meet up with mine before I can meet up with the back door to the Freedom Lawn. But then a Christmas miracle. A holy apparition in prison clothes. It's Bernie, slowly walking her wheelie bin, absent-mindedly, but not absent-mindedly at all, crossing into the path of the raging fourth screw. Out of my way, Bernie! The screw hollers, weaving around her. What? Bernie says, turning around blind, like a slapstick silent movie star, making a clumsy show of moving the bin backwards now, apparently unwittingly, into the screw's line of chase. The screw tries to jump the slanted bin, but clips a foot on the top of it and crashes spectacularly, belly first, into the polished prison floor. I burst out of the rear B-block door and run out to a well-kept grass lawn rolling down to a fenced tennis court. I run and I run. Brett Kenny, man of the match for the third straight week in a row, running well past the dead ball line now, running right into history. Eli Bell, the elusive Eli Bell. Call me Merlin, the wizard of the Boggo Road Women's Prison, the only boy to ever escape that B-block shithole, the only boy to ever escape Boggo Road. I can smell the grass. There is white clover in the grass and bees buzzing in the clover. The kinds of bees that make my ankles swell when they sting me. But get over it, Eli. There are worse things in the world than bees. The lawn slopes down to the tennis court, and I look behind me as I run. 4 screws in frantic chase, barking things I cannot understand. I slip my right arm out of an arm strap on my backpack as I run. I unzip the backpack and reach an arm in and grip a rope. It's time, Eli. The moment of truth. I started with matches first, like Slim did in his cell. Matches and a line of string. Matches tied by a twisted rubber band in the centre to form a cross-shaped grappling hook. Timing, planning, luck, belief. I believe, Slim. Hour after hour I spent in my bedroom studying the science and technique of lodging a grappling hook against a high orange-brown brick wall. When I was ready, I fixed my own real-life roped grappling hook out of a 15-metre length of thick rope, knotted at 50-centimetre intervals for grip points, and 2 roped pieces of cylindrical wood I cut up from an old rake handle Dad had lying under the house. I took the grappling hook down to the Bracken Ridge Scout Centre on Saturday afternoons, where they had a makeshift high wall that they ask young Boy Scout groups to scale in team-building exercises. Throw after throw after throw, I finessed my grappling hook wall lodging technique. An uptight scoutmaster caught me carrying out these curious prison break rehearsals one afternoon. "What exactly do you think you're doing, young man?" the scoutmaster asked. "Escaping," I said. "Excuse me?" the scoutmaster asked. "I'm pretending to be Batman," I said. I take a sharp left turn at the tennis court, sprinting into a small path leading between the prison's C-block cells to my left and a sewing workshop shed to my right. Losing breath, tiring now. Gotta find the wall. I pass the F-block temporary demountable cells. I turn behind me. I can't see the screws. I rush to the top prison wall. It's an old brown brick wall, high and imposing. I'm not sure my rope is long enough for the wall I stand before, so I rush along the perimeter, searching for a space in the brown brick fortress where a higher stretch of wall meets a lower stretch. Bingo! I quickly unravel my grappling hook rope and leave a 2-metre stretch of rope which will be my throwing segment. I look up at the wall corner, where high meets low, and I twirl the rope twice like a cowboy with a lasso, with the weight of the rake handle cutoffs acting as a guiding projectile readying for launch. I'll only get one shot. Help me, Slim. Help me, Brett Kenny. Help me, God. Help me, Obi-Wan. You're my only hope. Help me, Mum. Help me, Lyle. Help me, August. A Hail Mary toss. An act of pure faith and ambition and belief. I believe, Slim. I believe. The hook sails up into the air and over the high wall fence. I step 2 paces to my right, holding the rope taut, positioned so the hook can do nothing else but lodge into the high-low wall corner when I pull down on it. "Oi!" calls a screw. I turn to see him, maybe 50 metres away, running beside the fence wall. Another screw not far behind him. "Stop that, you little prick!" The screw calls. I grip a rope knot and pull myself with both hands up the wall, planting my gripping and reliable and blessed Dunlop KT-26s against the wall face, my back parallel with the grass lawn below me. I'm Batman. I'm Adam West in those old Batman TV shows, scaling a Gotham City office tower. This is working. This is actually fucking working. The lighter a person is, the easier this is. Slim was slim when he made his climb up a wall like this one, but I'm the boy who climbed the walls, the boy who fooled the screws, the boy who escaped from Boggo Road, Merlin the Magnificent, the Wizard of the Women's. Only sky from this angle, blue sky and cloud, and flashes of the top wall. 6 metres up now, 7 metres, 8 maybe, 9 metres. This must be 10 metres all the way up here, with my head in the clouds. The rope is taut and burning my hands. The middle finger on my right hand aches with the stress of working overtime in the absence of his forefinger co-worker. 2 screws rush to stand below me, looking up at me. They sound like Lyle when he used to get angry with me. "Are you fucked in the head, kid?" one calls. "Where do you think you're going to go?" "Come down from there," says the other screw. But I keep crawling up the wall, scaling and scaling, like one of those SAS soldiers in Britain who rescue all those people from terrorist hostage scenarios. "You're going to kill yourself, you idiot," the second screw says. "That rope ain't strong enough to hold you." Of course this rope is strong enough. I've tested it 17 times down at the Scouts Centre. Dad's old rope I found beneath the house, sitting in his rusted wheelbarrow, caked in dust and dirt. Up and up I go. Oh, the air up here. Was this what it felt like for you, Slim? The thrill of it all? The sight of the top? The thought of what waited beyond these walls? The story of the unknown? "Come on down now and you won't get into any more trouble," says the first screw. "Come on down, mate. Christ almighty, it's fucking Christmas Day. Your mum don't want to see you dead on Christmas Day." I'm a metre from the top of the wall when I pause to catch my breath. One last air suck before I make my triumphant crawl over the top, before I achieve the impossible, before Merlin pulls his last stunned rabbit from his hat. I take 3 more deep breaths. My legs stiff against the wall. I pull myself higher, so high I can see the hook segment from Dad's rake pressing against the wall, straining against the weight, but holding fast. The summit. Everest's lonely tip. I turn my head briefly and look down for a moment at the screws. "See you on the flip side, boys," I say grandly, a stroke of roguish pluck striking me all this way up here in the thinner air of the wall top. "You go tell those fat cats on George Street there ain't no wall in Australia high enough to hold the Wizard of Boggo." A single segment of Dad's rake handle snaps, and I fall backwards through the air. The blue sky and the white cloud reel away from me. My arms flail, and my legs kick at nothing, and my whole life flashes before my eyes. The universe, the fish swimming through my dreams, bubblegum, frisbees, elephants, the life and works of Joe Cocker, macaroni, war, water slides, curried egg sandwiches, all the answers to the questions, and a word I don't expect spills from my terrified lips. "Dad!" Boy steals ocean. The memorial plaque reads, Audrey Bogart, 1912 to 1983, loving wife of Tom, mother of Therese and David. A life like theirs has left a record sweet for memory to dwell upon. 71 years for Audrey Bogart to pass. The memorial plaque next to that one reads, Shona Todd, 1906 to 1981, beloved daughter of Martin and Mary Todd, sister to Bernice and Philip. The cup of life with her lips she pressed, a taste so sweet she gulped the rest. 75 years for Shona Todd to pass. Come on, it's about to start, I say to August. We walk into a small brick chapel in the centre of the Albany Creek Crematorium. Winter, 1987. 9 months into my great time-lapse experiment. Slim's right. It's all just time. 39 minutes to drive from our house in Bracken Ridge to the Albany Creek Crematorium. 20 seconds to tighten my shoelace. 3 seconds for August to tuck his shirt in. Almost 21 months until Mum comes out. I am fast becoming a master manipulator of time. I will make 21 months feel like 21 weeks. The man in the wood coffin taught me that. 77 years it took for Slim to die. He spent the past 6 months in and out of hospital, cancer creeping into too many corners of that tall frame of his. I tried to visit him when I could, between school, between homework and afternoon TV, between my growing up and his getting out, his last great escape. Crime era closes, read the headline in the Telegraph Dad handed me yesterday. A gripping chapter in the Queensland crime annals closed this week with the death in Redcliffe Hospital of Arthur Ernest Slim Halliday, 77. Time stops in this chapel. No noise from the few mourners around the coffin. A couple of men in suits. Nobody in here that knows anybody else. My hand reaches into my pants pocket and I feel for the last words Slim ever wrote to me. It was a message he wrote at the end of the instructions he gave me for meeting Mysterious George and his prison smuggler fruit truck. "Do your time," he wrote, "before it does you. Your friend always, Slim." Do your time, Eli Bell, before it does you. A crematorium official says something about life and time, but I miss it all because I'm thinking about life and time. And then Slim's coffin is taken away. It's over quick. Quick time. Good time. An old man in a black suit and tie approaches August and me as we walk back out the chapel doors. He says he's an old bookmaker friend of Slim's. He says Slim did some work for him after prison. "How did you boys know Slim?" he asks. His face is warm and friendly, a smile like Mickey Rooney's. "He was our babysitter," I say. The man nods, puzzled. "How did you know Slim?" I ask the man in the black suit. "He lived with me and my family for a time," the old man says. And I realise in this moment that there were other lives Slim led. There were other vantage points, other friends, other family. "It's nice of you to come and pay your respects," the old man says. "He was my best friend," I say. He chuckles. "Mine too," the old man says. "Really?" I ask. "Yeah, really," the old man says. "Don't worry," he whispers. "A man can have many best friends, and none any more or less best than the other." We walk along the crematorium lawn, rows of grey gravestones forming grim and uniform lanes in a cemetery beyond the chapel. "Do you think he killed that cabbie?" I ask. The old man shrugs. "I never asked him," the old man says. "But you would know, wouldn't you?" I ask. "I reckon you'd get a feeling on that. Your instinct or something would tell you if he did it." "What do you mean, instinct?" the old man asks. "I was around a guy once who killed many people, and my instinct told me he killed many people," I say. "There was a chill down my spine that told me he killed many people." The old man stops on the spot. "I never asked him about it, purely out of respect," the old man says. "I respected the man. If he didn't do that killing, then I respect him more still, and God rest his soul. I never got no chill down my spine around Slim Halliday, and if he did do that killing, then he was one hell of a tribute to rehabilitation." That's a nice way of putting it. Thanks, mysterious old man. I nod. The old man puts his hands in his pockets and walks off down a row of the cemetery. I watch him walk down that row of gravestones like he possesses the most carefree soul to ever inhabit a body. August is hunched over, inspecting another wall of gold plaques dedicated to the departed. "I need to get a job," I say. August gives a sharp look over his shoulder. "Why?" "We got to get a place for Mum when she gets out." August looks deeper into a plaque. "Come on, Gus." I urge, walking away. No time to waste. I landed flush into the arms of the screws that day I fell from the wall of the Boggo Road Women's Prison. To their great credit, the screws seemed more concerned for my mental health than furious with my misadventures. "You think he's mental?" pondered the youngest screw, who had a ginger beard and freckles across his forearms. "What'll we do with him?" Ginger asked his fellow screw. "Let Muzzer make the call," the second screw said. The two screws walked me in a pressure hold, each man gripping an arm, back up the lawn to the other two screws, the older and more experienced ones with not enough in the tank to chase a teenage boy through a prison yard. What took place inside the office of the prison administration building was a strategy meeting between prison screws which, for me, was akin to being witness to 4 early Neanderthals working out the rules of Twister. "He could fuck up a lot for us, Muzz," said the largest screw. "We got to call the warden?" asked Ginger. "We're not calling the warden," said the man they called Muzzer, Muzz, and the least preferred, Murray. "He'll hear about it in good time. He loses just as much from this shit getting out as we do. He doesn't need to hear about it when he's home eating Christmas ham with Louise." Muzzer thought about things for a moment. He bent down to my eye level. "You love your mum very much, don't you, Eli?" he asked. I nodded. "And you're a bright boy, aren't you, Eli?" he asked. "Not bright enough, it seems," I said. Muzz chuckled. "Yes, true shit," he said. "But you're bright enough to know what can happen in a place like this when people make our lives difficult. You know that, right?" I nodded. "All sorts of things can happen in the night in here, Eli," he said. "Real horrible things. Things you wouldn't believe." I nodded. "So tell me how you spent your Christmas." "I spent it eating canned pineapple from St. Vinny's with me brother and me dad," I said. Muzz nodded. "Merry fucking Christmas, Eli Bell," he said. The ginger screw, whose name turned out to be Brandon, drove me home in his car, a purple 1982 Commodore. He played a cassette tape of Van Halen's 1984 all the way home. I tried to pump my fist to the sonic thump of Panama, but my freedom of expression was hampered somewhat by my left hand being handcuffed to Brandon's rear left armrest. "Rock on, Eli," Brandon said, uncuffing me and letting me out, as per my request, 3 doors down from our house on Lancelot Street. I scurried light-footed into the house to find August asleep on the living room couch, Papillon resting open on his chest. I saw cigarette smoke down the hallway in Dad's room. Beneath the saddest Christmas tree ever decorated was a present wrapped in newspaper, a large rectangular book, a felt pen, Eli scrawled across it. I tore the paper away to find the gift inside. It was no book. It was a block of paper, maybe 500 blank pages of A4. On the first page was a brief message. "To burn this house down or to set the world on fire. Up to you, Eli. Merry Christmas, Dad." This is the end of CD 8. The book continues on CD 9. CD 9. He gave me another block of paper for my 14th birthday, along with a copy of The Sound and the Fury, because he noticed that my shoulders were broadening, and he said any young man needs broad shoulders to read Faulkner. It's on one of those pieces of A4 paper that I write my list of possible occupations within bike riding distance that would provide enough money for August and me to save for a deposit on a house in the Gap in Brisbane's lush western suburbs, which Mum can move into upon her release. Chip fryer at the Big Rooster takeaway restaurant on Barrett Street. Shelf stacker at the food store grocery shop on Barrett Street, with the frozen food section August and I hang out in on the hottest summer days, debating which ice block is more bite for your buck out of Have a Heart or Bubble a Bill, and the unchallengeable masterpiece, the banana paddle pop. Paperboy for the mad Russians who own the Barrett Street news agency. Bakery assistant for the bakery next door to the news agency. Cleaning out old Bill Ogden's pigeon loft on Playford Street. Last resort. I give this some more thought. Tapping my blue Kilometrico pen on the paper, and I scribble one more potential occupation, drawing on my limited skill set. Drug dealer. A knock on the front door. This never happens. The last time someone knocked on the front door was 3 months ago, when a young police officer came to chase up Dad about a drink driving incident 3 years ago in which several local mothers said he knocked over a stop sign outside a childcare centre on Denham Street. "Mr. Bell?" the young officer said. "Who?" Dad said. "I'm looking for Robert Bell," the officer said. "Robert Bell?" Dad pondered. "Nah, never heard of him." What's your name, sir?" the policeman asked. "Me?" Dad said. "I'm Tom." The officer took out a notepad. "Do you mind if I ask your surname, Tom?" the policeman asked. "Jode," Dad said. "How do I spell that?" the policeman asked. "Jode, like toad," Dad said. "So Jode?" the officer said. Dad shuddered. A knock on the door always means something dramatic in this house. August drops his Papillon. He's read it twice already, on the living room couch, and rushes to the front door. I follow close behind. It's Mrs. Birkbeck, school guidance counsellor, red lipstick, red bead necklace. She holds a manila folder filled with papers. "Hi, August," she says tenderly. "Is your father there?" I shake my head. She's come to save the world. She's come to cause trouble because she's too fucking earnest and self-inflated to know the difference between caring and carelessness is exactly the size of a 5-centimetre thorn lodged in your arsehole. "He's sleeping," I say. "Can you wake him for me, Eli?" she asks. I shake my head again, turn from the door and pace slowly down the hall to Dad's bedroom. He's reading Patrick White in a blue singlet and shorts, rolled cigarette in his mouth. "Mrs. Birkbeck's at the door," I say. "Who the fuck's Mrs. Birkbeck?" he spits. "She's the school guidance counsellor," I say. He rolls his eyes, hops up from his bed, stubs his cigarette out. He hacks up a chesty tobacco spit to clear his throat, spits it into the ashtray on his bed. "You like her?" he asks. "She means well," I say. He walks up the hall to the front door. "Hi," he says. "Robert Bell." He smiles, and there's sweetness in his smile, a softness I've not really seen. He offers his hand for shaking, and I don't think I've seen him do that either. Shake another person's hand like that. I thought it was just August and me he knew how to interact with on a human level, and we usually just communicate in nods and grunts. "Poppy Birkbeck, Mr. Bell," she says. "I'm the boys' guidance counsellor at school." "Yeah, Eli's been telling me about all the wonderful guidance you've been giving to my boys," he says. The lying bastard. Mrs. Birkbeck looks quietly and briefly moved. "They have?" she replies, looking at me, her cheeks glowing red. Well, Mr. Bell, I believe your boys are very special. I believe they have great potential, and I guess I consider it my job to inspire them enough to turn potential into reality. Dad nods his head, smiling. Reality. You know, midnight anxiety fits, suicidal depressive episodes, 3-day benders, fist-split eyebrows, bile, vomit, runny shit, brown piss. Reality. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all, Dad offers. Yes, Mrs. Birkbeck says, taken aback. Aristotle, Dad says earnestly. Yes, Mrs. Birkbeck says. I live my life by that quote. Then you keep on living, Poppy Birkbeck, and you keep on inspiring those kids, Dad says sincerely. Who the fuck is this guy? I will, she smiles. I promise. Then she refocuses. Look, Robert. Can I call you Robert? Dad nods. The boys weren't at school again today, and, Oh, I'm sorry about that, Dad interjects. I took the boys to a funeral of an old friend of theirs. It's been a tough couple of days for them. She looks at August and me. A tough couple of years, I understand. She says. We all nod, Dad, August and me, like we're starring in some sick midday movie. Can I talk to you for a minute, Robert? She asks. Maybe just the two of us? Dad takes a deep breath, nods. You two make yourselves scarce, will you? He says. August and I pad down the ramp at the side of the house, down past the hot water system and a couple of Dad's old rusting engines. Then we duck under the house, weave through Dad's store of unwanted and unworking washing machines and refrigerators. The space beneath the house narrows as the earth floor climbs up towards the living room and kitchen areas of the house. We crawl up to the top left corner of the under-house area, damp brown dirt caking our kneecaps, and sit right beneath the wooden floor of the kitchen where Dad and Mrs. Birkbeck talk about August and me at the octagonal table Dad usually passes out on at midnight on sole parent pension day. We can hear every word through the cracks between the floorboards. In all honesty, the work August produces is brilliant, Mrs. Birkbeck says. His artistic control and originality and innate skill represent a genuine artistic talent, but he... She stops. Go on, Dad says. He troubles me, she says. Both the boys trouble me. I never should have told her a word. She had rat written all over her. Can I show you something? Echoes Mrs. Birkbeck's voice through the cracks. August is lying down with his back on the dirt. He's listening, but he's not caring about what he's hearing. With his hands tucked behind his head like that, he might as well be daydreaming by the Mississippi River with a straw of grass in his mouth. But I care. This is a painting August did in art class last year, she says. There's a long pause. And these... We hear the sound of paper in her hands. These were done early this year, and these were done just last week. Another long pause. As you can see, Mr. Bell, Robert, August appears obsessed with this particular scene. Now, somewhat of an issue has formed between August and his art teacher, Miss Prodger. Because while Miss Prodger believes August is one of her most outstanding and committed students, he simply refuses to paint any other image but this one. Last month, the students were asked to paint a still life, and August painted this scene. The month before that, they were asked to paint a surrealist image, and August painted this. Last week, August was asked to paint an Australian landscape. August painted that same scene again. August stares straight up at the floorboards, unmoved. Dad remains silent. I would never normally betray the confidence of a student, she says. I consider my office a sacred space for sharing and healing and educating. I sometimes call it the vault, and only myself and my students know the password to the vault, and the password is respect. August rolls his eyes. But when I feel the safety of individuals within our school community might be at risk, then I feel I must say something. She says, If you think August is going to hurt someone, then you're sniffing the wrong rabbit hole, I'm afraid. Dad says, That boy don't hurt no one who don't deserve it. He doesn't do anything on a whim. He doesn't carry out a single action that he hasn't first thought through 100 times over. Interesting that you say that, she says. Say what? Dad replies. 100 times over, she says. Well, he's a deep thinker, Dad says. Another long pause. It's not the other students I'm concerned about, Robert, she says. I truly believe August, and those thoughts he keeps running over in that extraordinary mind of his, is of risk to no one but himself. A chair slides briefly across the wooden floor of the kitchen. Do you recognise that scene? She asks. Yeah, I know what he's painting, Dad says. Eli called it the moon pool, she says. Have you ever heard him call it that, the moon pool? No, Dad says. August looks at me. What did you tell her, Eli, you fucking rat? I whisper, I had to give her something. She was going to kick me out of school. August looks at me. You told that crazy witch about the moon pool? When Principal Gardner told me of the recent traumas in their lives, I thought it was natural that the effects of these events would manifest themselves in the boys' behaviours in some way. Mrs. Birkbeck says, above the floorboards, I believe they are both suffering from some kind of post-traumatic stress disorder. What, like shell shock or something? Dad asks. You reckon they've been in a war, Mrs. Birkbeck? You reckon those boys just got back from the Somme, Mrs. Birkbeck? Dad's starting to lose his patience. Well, of a kind, she says. Not a war of bullets and bombs, but a war of words and memories and moments. Just as damaging to a growing boy's brain, one could say, as anything on the Western Front. You saying they're loopy? Dad says. I'm not saying that, she says. Sounds like you're saying they're nuts, he says. What I'm saying is some of the things running through their heads are unusual, she says. What things? August looks at me. Why do you think I never told anyone but you, Eli? Things that could potentially be harmful to both boys, Mrs. Birkbeck says. Things that I feel I am obliged to tell the Department of Child Safety. Child safety? Dad echoes. The words are acid on his tongue. August looks at me. You fucked it all up, Eli. See what you've done? You couldn't keep your mouth shut, could you? You couldn't be discreet. I feel those two boys are planning something, Mrs. Birkbeck says. It feels like they're heading towards some destination that maybe none of us will know about until it's too late. Destination? Dad asks. Please tell me where they're going, Mrs. Birkbeck. London? Paris? The Birdsville races? I don't mean a physical place, necessarily, she says. I mean they're heading to certain destinations in their minds that are not safe for teenaged boys to go to. Dad laughs. You get all that from August's little watercolours? Dad asks. Have your boys ever engaged in any suicidal behaviours, Robert? Mrs. Birkbeck asks. August shakes his head, rolls his eyes. I place an imaginary pistol below my chin, giggling, blow my imaginary brains out. August chuckles, hangs himself, tongue out, on an imaginary noose. Eli said August was painting his dreams. Mrs. Birkbeck says, The moon pool was from Eli's dreams, he said. But he said he associated deep feelings of fear, feelings of darkness with the moon pool. He said he could recall his dreams in vivid detail, Robert. Has Eli ever spoken to you about his recurring dreams? August has a twig in his hand that he breaks into small bits. He throws a bit of stick at my head. No, Dad says. He can recall his dreams with remarkable clarity, she says. There is great violence in these dreams, Robert. When he tells me about some of these dreams, he can describe the sound of his mother's voice, the way drops of blood look on the wooden floors of a house. He can tell me the smells of things, but I told him that dreams do not come accompanied with smells. Dreams do not come with sound. And I asked Eli to start calling these dreams what they are. A long pause. What are they? Dad asks. Memories, Mrs. Birkbeck says. August writes in the air. Child safety takes August Bell to hell. August writes in the air. Child safety teaches Eli Bell to never tell. Eli said the car went into the moon pool 2 days before Francis left you. Mrs. Birkbeck says, Why do you want to dredge all this shit up? Dad asks. Those boys are doing all right. They're moving on. They can't move on when bleeding hearts like you keep dredging up shit and twisting things around in their heads and replacing things that happen in their heads with things that happen in your head. Eli said you drove them into the moon pool, Robert. And the dream feels so different when she says it like that. You drove them into the moon pool. He did drive us into the moon pool. Nobody else did. It had to be him. We were in the back seat and we were playing corners, rolling against each other in the back seat, with the weight of a turn squashing one of us into the side door. I like your sons, Robert. Mrs. Birkbeck says, I've come here today in the hope, for their sake, that you can convince me I should not inform the department that August and Eli Bell live in fear of their only guardian. I remember the dream. I remember the memory. It was night, and the car turned sharply off the road, and the car bounced along gravel and between tall gum trees that passed by my window like God was shuffling through images on a life slideshow. It was a panic attack, Dad says. I have panic attacks. I get them all the time. Had them even when I was a kid. I think Eli believes you did it on purpose, Mrs. Birkbeck says. I think he believes you intentionally swerved off the road that night. So did his mother, Dad says. Why do you think she fucked off? A long pause. It was a panic attack, Dad says. Go ask the cops in Samford if you don't believe me. Samford. Yes, Samford. It was rural. Had to be Samford. All those trees and hills. The wheels bounced hard on dips and ditches in the rolling land beneath us. I had enough time to look across at Dad in the front seat. Close your eyes, he said. I was taking him out to the Cedar Creek Falls, Dad says. Why would you go to Cedar Creek Falls at night time? Mrs. Birkbeck asks. You doing the cop work now? Dad asks. You love this, don't you? What? Having me over a barrel, he says. How exactly do I have you over a barrel? because you can take those boys away from me with the tick of a box, Dad says. It's my job to ask difficult questions if those difficult questions ensure the safety of my students, Mrs. Birkbeck says. You think you're serving your profession so nobly, so compassionately, Dad says. You'll take those boys from me, and you'll split 'em up and you'll strip 'em bare of the only thing that keeps 'em going, each other. And you'll tell your friends over a bottle of Chardonnay from Margaret River how you saved 2 boys from their monster dad who nearly killed them once. And they'll bounce from foster home to foster home until they find each other again in the gate of your house with a can of petrol, and they'll thank you for sticking your nose into our business as they're burning your house down. Close your eyes. I close my eyes, and I see the dream. I see the memory. The car hits the lip of a dam edge, the backyard dam of someone's farm in rural Samford, in the fertile hills of Brisbane's western fringe, and we're flying. The boys were left unconscious, Mrs. Birkbeck says. I can't hear Dad respond. It was a miracle anyone survived, she says. The boys were unconscious, but you pulled them out somehow. The magic car. The flying sky blue Holden Kingswood. Dad sighs. We can hear the sigh through the cracks. We were going camping, Dad says. He leaves big gaps between his sentences to think and drag on his smoke. August loved camping under the stars. He loved looking up at the moon when he slept. Me and their mum had been going through some issues. She ran away from you. Silence. Yeah, I guess you could say that. Silence. I guess I was thinking too much about it all, Dad says. I should never have been driving. Got the big shakes just before a blind lip in Cedar Creek Road, and that blind lip led to a blind corner. Wasn't easy to see on the road. My brain turned to mush. Long silence. I got lucky, Dad says. Them boys had their windows down. August always had his window down to look out at the moon. August is still, and the moonlight shines on the black dam water in my mind, the full moon reflected in the dam pool, that damn moon pool. Bloke who owned the little cottage near the dam came racing out. Dad says above us through the floorboards. He helped me drag the boys out. They were unconscious? I thought I'd lost them. Dad's voice wavers. They were gone. They weren't breathing? Well, that's the tricky thing of it, Mrs. Birkbeck, Dad says. August gives a half smile. He's enjoying this story, nodding his head knowingly, as if he's heard it before, but I know he hasn't. I know he can't have heard it. I would have sworn they weren't breathing, Dad says. I tried resuscitating them, shook them like crazy to wake them up, and I couldn't wake them. Then I started screaming to the sky like a lunatic, and I looked back down again at their faces, and they're awake. Dad clicks his fingers. Just like that, he says. They come back. He drags on his smoke, exhales. I asked the Ambos about it when they lobbed up, and they said the boys might have been in shock. Said it might have been hard for me to find a pulse or check their breathing because their bodies were so cold and numb. What do you think about that? Mrs. Birkbeck asks. I don't think anything about that, Mrs. Birkbeck, Dad says, frustrated. It was a panic attack. I fucked up. And not an hour has passed in my life since that night that I haven't wished I could turn that car back onto Cedar Creek Road. A long pause. I don't think August has stopped thinking about that night, Mrs. Birkbeck says.
How do you mean? Dad asks.
I think that night left a deep psychological imprint on August, Mrs. Birkbeck says.
August has seen every psychologist in southeast Queensland, Mrs. Birkbeck, Dad says. He's been analysed and tested and probed and prodded by people like you for years, and none of them have ever said he was anything more than a normal kid who don't like talking.
He's a bright boy, Robert. He's bright enough not to tell those psychologists any of the things he tells his brother.
Such as?
I look at August. He shakes his head. Eli, Eli, Eli. I look up at the floorboards, covered in messages and sketches August and I have scribbled under here in permanent marker. Bigfoot riding a skateboard. Mr. T driving the DeLorean DMC-12 from Back to the Future. A poor sketch of Jane Seymour nude with breasts that look more like metal garbage can lids. A scribbled collection of dumb one-liners. I was wondering why the ball was getting bigger and bigger, and then it hit me. The banker wanted to check my balance, so she pushed me over. I didn't want to believe Dad was stealing from the roadworks, but all the signs were there. Why did he stop talking? Mrs. Birkbeck asks.
Not sure, Dad says. He hasn't told me yet.
He told Eli he doesn't talk because he's afraid he'll let his secret slip out, she says.
Secret? Dad spits.
Have the boys ever mentioned a red telephone to you? She asks.
August boots me in the right shin. Fuckwit.
A long pause.
No, Dad says.
Robert, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you, but August has been telling Eli a number of troubling things, Mrs. Birkbeck says. Traumatic things that are, I believe, themselves born of trauma. Potentially harmful thoughts from a bright boy with an imagination too wild for his own good.
All older brothers tell their younger brothers all kinds of bullshit, Dad says.
But Eli believes it all, Robert. Eli believes it because August believes it.
Believes what? Dad asks, frustrated.
Her voice turns to a whisper we can hear only faintly through the floorboard cracks. It would appear August has become convinced that he, I don't know how to say this, he believes he died that night in the moon pool. She says, he believes he died and came back. And I think he believes he's died before and come back before. And maybe he believes he's died like that and come back like that several times.
A long pause in the kitchen. The sound of Dad lighting a smoke.
And it seems he told Eli that, well, he believes there are now other Augusts in other places.
Places, Dad echoes.
Yes, Mrs. Birkbeck says.
What sort of places?
Well, places beyond our understanding. Places that are found at the other end of the red telephone the boys talk about.
What fucking... Sorry, what red telephone? Dad barks, losing his patience.
The boys say they hear voices. A man at the end of a red telephone.
I have no fucking idea what you're on about.
Mrs. Birkbeck speaks now like she's disciplining a 6-year-old. The red telephone that sits in the secret room beneath the house their mother shared with her partner Lyle, who has inexplicably disappeared off the face of the earth.
Dad takes a long drag. A long silence.
August hasn't spoken since that night of the moon pool because he doesn't want to risk letting slip the truth behind his great secret, Mrs. Birkbeck says. And Eli is adamant the magic red phone is true because he has spoken to a man on the other end of the phone who knows things about him he couldn't possibly know. Another long pause, and Dad laughs. He howls, in fact. "Oh, that's fucking priceless," he says. "That's fucking spectacular." I hear him slapping his knees. "I'm glad you can see the funny side," Mrs. Birkbeck says. "And you believe that my boys truly believe all of this?" Dad asks. "I believe both of their minds, quite some time ago perhaps, developed a complex and mixed belief system of real and imagined explanations for compounding moments of great trauma," she says. "I believe they are either deeply psychologically damaged or... She pauses. "Or what?" Dad asks. "Or it couldn't hurt to consider the other explanation for it all," she says. "What's that?" Dad asks. "That they are more special than you and I could possibly understand," Mrs. Birkbeck says. "Maybe they do hear things that are beyond their own understanding as well, and this red phone they're talking about is the only way they know how to make sense of the impossible." "That's fucking ridiculous," Dad says. "Maybe so," Mrs. Birkbeck says. "Whatever the case, however fantastical these theories are, my point is that I truly fear these beliefs, even if they were formed in the imagination, might one day cause great harm to August and Eli. What if August's belief in what he calls coming back transfers itself into some mistaken sense of invincibility?" Dad chuckles. "I worry these thoughts have placed your boys on a path of recklessness, Robert." Dad dwells on this for a moment, the flint of his lighter striking, an exhalation of smoke. "Well, you don't need to worry yourself about my boys, Mrs. Birkbeck," Dad says. "I don't?" "Nah," Dad says, "because that's all a pile of horseshit." "How so?" asks Mrs. Birkbeck. "I mean, August is nuts and bolts," Dad says. "Sorry, nuts and bolts?" "He's straight up and down," Dad says. "I mean, it sounds like Eli's taking the piss. He's spinning you a fantastical bullshit yarn to pull himself out of some shit he's got himself in. It's a win-win. You believe it and you think he's special. You don't believe it and you think he's fucked in the head, but you still think he's special. Look, he's a storyteller. And I hate to tell you, Mrs. Birkbeck, but Eli was born with the two qualities of any good storyteller: the ability to string a sentence together and the ability to bullshit." I look at August. He nods his head in agreement. The legs of one of the kitchen chairs slides across the kitchen floorboards. Mrs. Birkbeck sighs. August sits up and moves into a crawl position, crab-walking back out from beneath the house. At the back of the underhouse area, where there's enough room between the dirt ground and the house's floorboards for August to stand, he stops at one of Dad's abandoned washing machines. It's a top loader. He opens the lid of the washing machine and looks inside, closes the lid again. He waves me over. "Open the lid, Eli. Open the lid." I open the lid, and inside the washing machine is a black garbage bag. "Look inside the bag, Eli. Look inside the bag." I look inside the bag, and inside it there are 10 rectangular blocks of heroin wrapped in brown grease-proof paper and wrapped again in clear plastic. The blocks are the size of the bricks they make at the Darra Brickworks. August says nothing. He closes the lid to the washing machine and marches up the side of the house, back up the ramp and into the kitchen. Mrs. Birkbeck turns in her chair and immediately sees the intensity on August's face. "What is it, August?" she asks. He licks his lips. "I'm not going to kill myself," he says. He points at Dad. And we love him very much, which is only half as much as he loves us. Boy masters time. Do your time before it does you. Before it does the roses on Khan Bowie's prize-winning garden on Harrington Street. Before it peels the paint off B. Van Tran's yellow Volkswagen van, still parked like it always is on Stratheden Street. Time is the answer to everything, of course. The answer to our prayers and murders and losses and ups and downs and loves and deaths. Time for the brothers Bell to grow up and for Lyle's stash of heroin to grow in value along the way. Time puts hairs on my chin and my underarms and takes its time putting hairs on my balls. Time puts August in his final year at school, with me not far behind him. Time makes Dad a half-decent cook. He makes us meals most nights he's not drinking. Chops and frozen vegetables, sausages and frozen vegetables, a good spaghetti bolognese. He roasts mutton that we eat for a week. Some mornings, while the rest of the world is sleeping, he's waist deep in the mangroves of Cabbage Tree Creek in seaside Shorncliffe, catching us mud crabs with claws that bulge like Viv Richards' biceps. Some afternoons he walks halfway down to the food store supermarket to get the groceries and he comes back with nothing, and we don't ask why because we know he got the panics, because we know his nerves now, how they ruin him, how they eat him alive from the inside where his arteries and his veins carry all that memory and tension and thought and drama and death. Some days I join him on the bus because he asks me to watch over him as he travels. He needs me to be his shadow. He asks me to talk to him. He asks me to tell him stories because they calm his nerves. So I tell him all the stories Slim told me. All those yarns about all those crims from Boggo Road. I tell him about my old pen pal, Alex Bermudez, and how those men inside wait for only two things in life, death and days of our lives. When the nerves get too much, he gives me the nod and I press the bell for the bus to stop, and Dad takes his breath by a bus stop and I tell him everything is going to be all right and we wait for the next bus back home. Small steps in our Dunlops. He gets a little further each trip out of the house. Bracken Ridge to Chermside, Chermside to Kedron, Kedron to Bowen Hills. Time makes Dad cut down on his drinking. Mid-strength beer comes to Queensland and Dad stops flooding the toilet with piss. They'll never measure these things, but I know more cartons of mid-strength beer in Bracken Ridge mean less Bracken Ridge mums presenting before Dr. Benson in the Barrett Street Medical Centre with split eye sockets. Time puts Dad in a job. He soups up on enough Serapaks to get him outside the front door and onto a bus that takes him into a job interview at the G. James Glass and Aluminium Factory on Kingsford Smith Drive, Hamilton, not far from the Brisbane CBD. For 3 weeks he works on a factory line, cutting lengths of aluminium into various shapes and sizes, earning enough to buy a small bronze-coloured 1979 Toyota Corona for $1,000 from his loose Bracken Ridge tavern mate Jim Snapper Norton on a payment basis of $100 every payday for 10 weeks. He smiles when he opens his wallet on Friday afternoon and shows me 3 grey-blue money notes, the ones we never see, the ones with Douglas Mawson on them standing in a snow jumper, the Antarctic cold freezing the many hairs on his iceberg-sized balls. I've never seen Dad more proud, and he's so proud this night he actually laughs more than he cries on the piss. But in the 4th week of this wondrous paid work, his foreman berates him for something he didn't do. Someone plugged in the wrong numbers on a line of metal sheeting, and $5,000 worth of metal came up 5 centimetres short, and Dad can't absorb the injustice, So he calls the foreman obtuse. And the young foreman doesn't know what that means, so Dad tells him, "It means you're a freckle-faced cunt," he says. And on his way home, he stops into the Hamilton Hotel off Kingsford Smith Drive to toast what he might have made of that wondrous paid work with 8 pots of full-strength 4X. And pulling out of the Hamilton Hotel driveway, he's stopped by police who send him to a judge for drink driving, and the judge takes away his driver's licence and sentences Dad to a further 6 weeks community service, and August and I have very little to say when Dad informs us that his court-ordered community service will be carried out assisting the aged and ailing groundsman, Bob Chandler, at our very own Nashville State High School. I have even less to say when I look out my classroom window in Maths A class to find Dad beaming proudly up at me, standing beside the giant Eli he's mowed into the manicured grass lawn that fronts the mathematics and science block. Time makes the phone ring. "Yeah," Dad says. "Okay. Yeah, I understand. What's the address?" "Okay. Yep. Yep. Bye." He puts the phone down. August and I are watching Family Ties and eating sandwiches with Devon and tomato sauce. "Your mum's getting out a month early," he says, and he opens the drawer beneath the telephone, pops 2 Sarah packs, and walks on down the hallway to his bedroom, sucking those nerve lollies down like Tic Tacs. Time makes the soft red roses on Carnbuie's prize-winning garden turn hard, makes them grow into themselves like Dad did after that brief and colourful moment in the spring sun of the G. James glass and aluminium factory line. I walk past Carnbuie's house on the way to Arcadia Street in Darra. I remember what Carnbuie's front garden looked like when it won first prize in a neighbourhood garden competition as part of a Darra State School fete celebration 5 years ago. It was like a lolly shop of colour then, a mix of ornamental and native plants that Carnbuie would hose every morning we walked to school, standing in his blue and white pyjamas. Some mornings his wrinkly old dick would be sticking unassumingly out of the fly in his pyjamas, but Mr. Bowie would never notice because his garden was so damn enchanting. But it's all gone dry and dead now, straw-coloured and bristly like the grass oval in Ducey Street Park. As I turn into Arcadia Street, I stop on the spot. 2 Vietnamese men are sitting in white plastic garden chairs at the top of Darren Dang's driveway. They wear black sunglasses and they sit in the sun in Adidas nylon tracksuits with white sneakers. The tracksuits are navy blue with 3 yellow stripes running down each side of their jackets and pants. I approach the front driveway slowly. One of the men holds his hands up to me. I stop. Both men stand from their chairs and reach for something out of view behind Darren's large and secure front fence. They are now holding large and sharp-looking machetes when they approach me. "Who are you?" asks one of them. "I'm Eli Bell," I say. "I'm an old friend of Darren's from school." "What's in bag?" The same man spits with a thick Vietnamese accent. I look up and down the street, look up into the living room windows of the 2-storey houses surrounding us, hoping nobody nosy is sticking their nose into this smelly business down here. "Well, it's kind of sensitive," I whisper. "What the fuck are you doing here?" asks the man, impatient, his default facial expression being a snarl. "I've got a business proposal for Darren," I say. "You mean Mr. Dang?" the man snaps. "Yes, Mr. Dang," I clarify. My heart is racing. My fingers grip the straps of my black backpack. "Business proposal?" the man asks. I look around again, take a step closer. "I have some, merchandise I think he might be interested in," I say. "Merchandise?" the man suggests. "You BTK?" Pardon me?
You BTK! We cut your fucking tongue out!
The man says, his wide eyes suggesting he might enjoy said cut. No, I'm not BTK, I say.
You Mormon?
I laugh. No, I say.
You Jehovah's Witness?
The man spits.
You trying to sell fucking hot water system again?
No, I say. I briefly ponder what kind of strange parallel universe Dara I've walked back into. BTK? Mr. Darren Dang? I've no idea what you're talking about, I say. Look, I just came to say g'day to Darren. The Vietnamese men move closer, their hands working over the wooden handles of their machetes.
Pass me your bag,
he says. I step back. The man raises his machete.
Bag,
he says. I pass over the bag. He hands it to his offsider, who looks inside. He speaks in Vietnamese to the man, who appears to be his superior.
Where you get this merchandise?
The superior asks. Darren's mum sold it to my mum's boyfriend a long time ago, I say. I've come to sell it back. The man looks at me silently. I can't see his eyes through his black sunglasses. He pulls a black two-way radio transceiver from his pocket.
What's your name again?
He asks. Eli Bell, I say. He talks into the transceiver in Vietnamese. The only words I catch are Eli Bell. He puts the transceiver back into his pocket, beckons me closer.
Come,
he says.
Arms up.
I raise my arms, and the two Vietnamese men frisk my legs and arms and hips. Gee, security's really picked up around here, I say. The superior's right hand fidgets around my balls. Gentle, I say as I squirm.
Follow me,
he says. We don't go up into the house where Lyle once made his deals with the exotic back-off Bic Dang. We pass Darren's large yellow brick house down the left side. It's only now that I realise the house's high wood fence is lined with barbed wire. This is less a backyard than a fortress. We walk to a granny flat behind the main house that is more like a council toilet block made of white painted concrete blocks, a good place for drug dealers or Hitler to strategise. The gate man knocks once on the peach-coloured door of the bunker and says a single word in Vietnamese. The door opens and the gate man leads me into a hallway lined with framed black and white photographs of Darren Dang's family members back home. Wedding photographs, family functions, one shot of a man crooning into a microphone, another shot of an old lady holding a giant prawn by a brown river. The hallway leads to a living room where a dozen or so Vietnamese men stand in navy blue nylon Adidas tracksuits with yellow stripes down the sides of their arms and legs. They all wear black sunglasses, like the men on the gate. These men in blue tracksuits stand around one man who sits in a red nylon Adidas tracksuit with white stripes running down his arms and legs. He sits at a sprawling timber office desk, running his eyes over several documents on the table. He does not wear black sunglasses. He wears mirrored aviator sunglasses with gold frames. Darren? I say. The man in the red tracksuit looks up and I see a scar running from the left edge of his mouth. He takes his sunglasses off and his eyes adjust to my face, eyes squinting.
Who the fuck are you?
He asks. Darren, it's me, I say. It's Eli. He puts his sunglasses down on the table, reaches into a drawer beneath the desk, pulls out a flick knife, and the blade snaps into view as he rounds the desk and approaches me. He rubs the bottom of his nose, sniffs sharply 2 times. His eyeballs are pulsing like light bulbs losing power. He stands before me and runs the blade along my right cheek.
Eli who?
He whispers. Eli Bell, I say. From school. Fuck me, Darren, it's me, mate. I used to live just down the road. He puts the blade up to my eyeball. Darren? Darren, it's me! Then he freezes. A smile explodes across his face. Ha! He hollers. You see your face, bitch! He screams. His friends in navy blue tracksuits howl at my expense. He adopts a thick Australian outback accent. You hear this, bitch? He says to his audience. It's me, mate. It's me, Eli. He slaps his thighs, then wraps his arms around me, blade still fixed inside his right fist. Come here, bellend. He laughs. What the fuck's up with you? You don't call, you don't write. I had big plans for us, Tink. It all went to shit, I say. Darren nods in agreement. Yeah, a whole bunch of runny old Eli Bell shit, he says. He grips my right hand, lifts it into view, runs his finger across the pale white nub of my missing finger. You miss it? Darren asks. Only when I'm writing, I say. No, I mean Dara, dumbass. You miss Dara. I do, I say. Darren walks back to his desk. Can I get you anything? He asks. I've got a fridge full of soft drink in the room there. You got any Pasito? Nah, Darren says. Got Coke, Solo, Fanta, and creaming soda. I'm good, I say. He leans back in his desk chair and shakes his head. Eli Bell is back in town, he says. It's good to see you, Tink. His smile goes flat. That was fucked up what happened to Lyle, he says. Was it Bick? I ask. Was it Bick what? He replies. Was it Bick who ratted on Lyle? You think it was Mum? He asks, perplexed. No, I don't think so, I say. But was it? She considered Lyle a client, just like Titus Brosh, he says. Aside from the fact ratting is bad business, she had no reason to rat about any side business she had going on because she was just doing business, Tink. If Lyle was dumb enough to start trading with her behind his boss's back, that was his business, not hers. His cash had the same numbers printed on it as anybody else's. Nah, man, you know exactly who ratted his ass out. No, I really don't know. Not exactly, not at all. Darren looks at me, mouth open, dumbstruck. You really are one sweet kid, Eli, Darren says. Don't you know the biggest rats are always closest to the cheese? Teddy, I say. I didn't tell you, Tink, but I don't eat no cheese, he says. Darren's friends nod. Pissweak, fucksack, so-called friend Tadouche Teddy Callis, the fucking cheese eater. Where's your mum? I ask. She's up in the house resting, he says. She got the big C about a year ago. Cancer? Nah, cataracts, he says. Poor Bick can't see no more. The gate man drops my backpack on his desk. Darren looks inside. You still important for Titus Brosh? I ask. Nah, that pussy's gone to Dustin Vang and BTK, he says. That incident with your precious Lyle didn't help relations between Mum and Titus. Darren sticks his knife in the bag, pulls it back out with its tip holding grains of Lyle's high-grade heroin. What's BTK? I ask. Darren inspects the gear on his knife like a jeweller inspecting the clarity of diamonds. Born to kill, Darren says. It's the new world, Tink. Everybody's got to be gang-affiliated now. BTK, 5T, Canal Boys. The exporters back home have all these rules about shit now. Everything goes through abracadabra cabramatta down south, and all the heads in cab were forced to split into sides when all the heads back in Saigon split into sides. That punk bitch Dustin Vang went BTK, and my mum went 5T. What's 5T? Darren looks around at his friends. They smile. They all chant something in Vietnamese. He stands and unzips his red nylon Adidas jacket, pulls down a white singlet to reveal a tattoo on his chest, a large numeral 5 with a T in the shape of a dagger, stabbing into a throbbing black heart emblazoned with 5 Vietnamese words: Ten, Tien, Tu, Toi, and Tu. The 5T gang chant in unison: love, money, prison, sin, revenge. Darren nods. Fuck yeah, he says approvingly. There's a knock on the door of the bunker. A young Vietnamese boy, maybe 9 years old, dressed in his own navy nylon Adidas tracksuit, enters the office area. He's sweating. He hollers something at Darren in Vietnamese. BTK? Replies Darren. The boy nods. Darren nods his head at a senior gang member to his right, who nods in turn at 3 other members who rush out of the bunker. What is it? I ask. Fucking BTK crew walking down Grant Street. Darren says. They're not supposed to be walking on fucking Grant Street. Darren is frustrated, impatient. He looks down at my bag again. How much? He asks. Sorry? I say. How much? He repeats. What are you asking? For the gear, I clarify. No, Tink, for you to blow my Charlie dick. Yes, how much you asking for the gear? That's the gear your mum sold Lyle almost 4 years ago, I say. You don't say, he says, dry and sarcastic. I thought you might have started up your own import business out at bumfuck Bracken Ridge. I make my sales pitch. I rehearsed it 6 times in our bedroom yesterday, but there weren't 14 intimidating Vietnamese men in sunglasses staring at me in my bedroom. I figure, with the focus Queensland police have put on the heroin trade of late, that prices for gear of that integrity, ha! Laughs Darren. Integrity! I like that, Tink. Sounds like you're selling me an English butler or something. Integrity. The gang members laugh. I soldier on. Gear of that quality, I figure, would be tough to come by, and so I'm thinking, for the amount we have in that bag there, a fair price would be... I look into Darren's eyes. He's done this before. I've never done this. 5 hours ago, I was drawing my stick portrait as a knight holding Excalibur in the heat mist on Dad's bathroom shower door. Now I'm making a heroin deal with the 16-year-old leader of the 5T gang. Damn it, don't say confidence. 80,000. Darren smiles. I like your style, Eli, he says. He turns to another gang member, talks in Vietnamese. The gang member rushes into another room. What's he doing? I ask. He's grabbing you your 50,000, Darren says. 50,000? I echo. I said 80,000. What about inflation? Tink, the only inflation I can see right now is the hot air blowing up your ass. Darren smiles. Yes, it's probably worth at least 100,000, but as much as I love you, Eli, you are you and I am me, and the problem with being you right now, aside from the fact that you can't bowl a cricket ball to save yourself, is the fact you would not have the faintest clue where to take that gear anywhere beyond that door behind you. I turn around and look at the door behind me. Fair point, well made. Darren laughs. I missed you, Eli Bell, he says. 3 gang members burst back into the office barking frantic words at Darren. Fucking gook cunts, Darren barks. He barks at his gang members in thick Vietnamese. The gang members all rush to an adjoining room and re-emerge just as fast, carrying machetes. Another gang member emerges from a separate room, holding my $50,000 in 3 brick-shaped blocks of $50 notes. The men with the machetes file down the hallway with military diligence, clanging their machetes excitedly against the hallway walls as they exit the bunker. What the fuck's going on? I ask. fucking BTK have broken the peace agreement," Darren says, opening a long drawer in his desk. "They're about 2 minutes from my fucking house. I'm gonna cut their fucking BTK heads off like the catfish cunts they are." He brings out a gleaming gold-coloured custom-made machete emblazoned with the 5T logo. "What about me?" I ask. "Oh, yeah," he says. He leans back down to his drawer and pulls out another machete, tosses it to me. I fumble for the handle, and the blade nearly lodges into my foot on its way down to the ground. I quickly pick up the weapon. "No," I say. "I mean, we need to finish the deal." "Tink, that deal's fucking done," he says. His helper hands me my backpack. The drugs have disappeared from the bag and been replaced with blocks of cash. "Let's go," Darren says. Darren rushes down the hallway, a warrior's bloodlust across his face. "I think I'll just wait here till you guys are all done," I say. "'Fraid not, Tink," he says. "We got enough money in this bunker to feed Big Rooster to the people of Vietnam for 6 months. We gotta lock this joint up." "I'll just slip out over the back fence," I say. "We got barbed wire walls on all sides. Ain't no way out of here but through that front gate," he says. "What's wrong with you anyway? These BTK fuckers want to take over our crib. They want all the Darra territories. You gonna let these fuckers take over our hometown? This is our turf, Tink. We gotta defend it." The battle starts much like any other throughout history. The heads of each opposing clan exchange words. "I'm gonna cut your nose off, Tran, and stick a key ring through your nostril," Darren calls from the front of his house on the cul-de-sac of Arcadia Street, standing in the centre of a group of 5T members that now has swelled to about 30. At the entrance to the street stands the man who I guess is named Tran, before his gang of fidgety BTK barbarians who indeed appear to have been placed on this earth for the sole purpose of ending the lives of others. Tran holds a machete in his right hand and a hammer in his left, leading a group that outnumbers Darren's by at least 10. "I'm gonna cut your ears off, Darren, and sing the marching song to them every night before supper," Tran says. Then the clanging starts. Gang members on both sides clanging the metal weapon of the man next to them. A rhythmic clanging that escalates in intensity. A call to war. A song of doom. And something inside me, my own lust for life, my own quest for peace perhaps, or maybe just my innate fear of having a machete lodged into my scalp, makes me push through the huddle of 5 team members from my position behind them. "I'm sorry," I say. "I'm sorry." I walk into the centre of Arcadia Street, the very centre of the divide between these two bloodthirsty groups. "I'm sorry to interrupt," I call, and the clanging of machetes halts. Silence fills the street, and my shaky voice echoes across Darra. "I know there's no reason why you should listen to me," I call. "I'm just some idiot who dropped in to see his mate. But I really feel an outsider's perspective might help you guys resolve any grievances you may have against each other." I turn to each side. A look of profound befuddlement can be seen on the faces of Darren and Tran. "Sons of Darra," I say. "Sons of Vietnam. Was it not war that forced your families from their homelands? Was it not hate and division and miscommunication that brought you to this beautiful suburb in the first place? There's a strange land out past the borders of Darra, and that place is called Australia. And that place isn't always nice to newcomers. That place isn't always welcoming to outsiders. You guys will face enough fights out there beyond this sanctuary of home. You need to fight together out there, not against each other in here." I point to my own head. "Maybe it's time we all started using a bit more of this," I say. And I raise my machete. "And a bit less of this." I slowly and symbolically place my machete flat on the bitumen of a motionless Arcadia Street. Darren looks at his men. Tran lowers his arms for a moment and looks across at his soldiers. Then he looks back at me. Then he raises his weapons once more. "Tankung!" he screams. And the BTK army charges forth, machetes and hammers and crowbars raised to the Brisbane sky. "Kill them all!" screams Darren as the merciless 5T army sprints forward, rubber shoes rushing on the street and metal clanging in anticipation. I turn and sprint to the side of the street just as the two rabid armies meet in an explosion of flesh on flesh and blade on blade. I leap over a knee-high fence and into the front garden of a small cottage home 4 doors up from Darren's house. I fall to my belly and crawl across the cottage home's front lawn, praying a BTK member hasn't spotted my escape. I crawl to the side of the house and find shelter behind a white rosebush from where I take one last look at the great machete battle of Arcadia Street. Blades whistling through air, fists and elbows finding foreheads and noses, legs kicking into stomachs, knees meeting eyeballs. Darren Dang leaps briefly and triumphantly out of the melee on an arcing flight towards some unsuspecting rival warrior. My hand reaches to the bottom of my backpack to feel for the 50 grand still sitting in there, and I thank the gods of war for remembering the 6th T. Turn and run. This is the end of CD 9. The book continues on CD 10.